So then, on to Street Talk, but before we do that, of course, what have been the clickbaity Coronation Street related stories in the news this week? Was that just a little...
I've got fumes in my throat from all of our hard work.
For our hard painting we've been doing. Okay, right, I've only got a couple this week. It's not been a brilliant week for clickbait. I'm apologising. I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay, I'm very sorry on behalf of the whole of the media, Gemma, that very few interesting clickbaity headlines were produced to relate to Coronation Street this week.
Is this like one of those things where you set up something to prevent it from happening, and then when it stops happening, you give up?
Yeah, exactly like that. Right, first one. Metro. Coronation Street fans howling at blunder as dog becomes handbag. What's that about?
I remember this.
Because, do you know this one?
Yes, I did. I remember I think I saw a clip somebody put on Twitter, and it was Cassie sitting with Freddie on her lap. And you see her in the Rovers as it cuts to her a couple of times, but when she stands up, the next thing you see is her with the bag, and she's holding it in the same way she was holding a dog.
Neither of us noticed this when we were watching the show, did we? No. I didn't even see anyone on Twitter post about it. I don't even remember news, but apparently it was quite the thing.
Having Freddie. So
yeah, well, she did. Last one then, Gemma. The Sun. Coronation Street teases return of 3 huge characters with cryptic hints amid crisis at UK ITV soap.
We're both fried today.
Who's coming back to Coronation Street? Who's been teased? This is not a spoiler. Anybody who's worried about spoilers, of course. This is silly tabloids.
I think is this to do with Sally talking about how she misses the gals.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Rosie
and Sophie. Apparently coming back, alas not.
They were talking about fostering. Yeah. And so Sally was like, I've already had my kids.
Yeah. Who was the third person?
Third one, then?
It was still to do with Sally and Tim talking in that conversation.
Is it Faye?
Yes, Faye. I don't think Faye's coming back anytime soon.
I don't want to be rude, but I don't think Faye returning is going to solve the crisis.
Do you not? Do you not think so?
No.
She's a big star. Now she's done her Strictly, she could come in to sweep in and save Coronation Street. Not that it needs saving.
The tragic bit about her being in, what was it? Dancing.
Strictly Come Dancing, that's the one.
The tragic thing about that was that you realise how misused she was on Coronation Street, because
she should have been dancing all the time.
I mean, it also shows how great of an actor she was, because she was bloody boring as hell in Coronation
was a
Street.
Bit dull, wasn't she?
I only saw bits and bobs, and from what people say, she was utterly delightful.
So we've heard. Well, neither of those, none of those 3 are going to be coming back to Corrie anytime soon, as far as I know. But anyway, that was all I could find. If anyone else finds any good clickbaity headlines, do send them my way. It'll save me a job of finding it. I am foreseeing a few more spoilers, unfortunately, these days. Because I'm searching for Coronation Street headlines.
Maybe we should stop doing it then.
I don't. Yeah, maybe I don't know.
Maybe we should replace the quiz with it, and I can do it.
Stop. No, the quiz is fun. It's all good. But this is not. Neither of those are what people really tune into this for, are they? It's to find out what happened in Coronation Street this week, or exactly what we thought about it. And an awful lot of Corrie this week was full up with Debbie's storyline, wasn't it? And all the various woes of the Webster family. We had the grease monkey nuts for a while with Abby's PTSD, Kevin's testicular cancer, and now, just to make a hat trick, we got Debbie and her dementia, which is the very lame storyline title I've come up with this
Webster's woes.
Presumably Debbie's got no, she has. She's got it, hasn't she? This is we can't. I think it would be ridiculous to go yet another episode of the podcast without just saying,
pretending we don't know what's going on.
She's got dementia and nobody's happy about it, apart from Kate Brooks, who apparently thinks it's wonderful, but I don't know. We'll definitely put our oar in about what we're thinking and feeling about that sometime soon.
Just say that we also did know that Carl was coming back.
We did know that, yes.
And I thought that I think we both sort of were having a conversation where we both were like, oh, it'd be good if he was gay.
Yes, I saw lots of people, because this news came out, I think it was at the beginning of the year, that Carl would be returning.
I decided.
A lot of people were saying, oh, this is going to be Todd's new man, because I think there was a tease that he would have a new fella, and people wrongly assumed it would be Carl Webster.
I didn't hear anything about Todd.
He's definitely got an eye for the ladies.
I think it would be better for everyone all around if he was gay.
I don't know, he might be.
And then that would have been a proper hat trick, wouldn't it? Because all 3 male characters that they revealed would have been gay.
Well, then maybe if Carl was gay, maybe Theo wouldn't have to be.
All the people on Twitter who go on and on about how gay Coronation Street is would just be like, see?
Told you.
See?
But we do need more hunky straight men for the many single ladies on Coronation Street, don't we?
Well, can I just say
we've been told.
that I think that Carl Webster is a massive slime ball and Germany can have him back.
Initial impressions of Carl Webster, not positive in this household.
How do you spell sexual harassment pervert? Is it with a K or a C?
What, in German?
I'm making a joke that his name is Carl. With
yeah.
a C or a K.
He's with a
C. And I'm saying, how do you spell his name? And I'm calling him sexual harassment pervert.
He's a really difficult one because I think if we put all of that slime ballness to one side, I think he's probably supposed to be a character that we're thinking, oh, look at what a charmer he is. Yeah,
kick him in the nuts.
I know, and it's not a good introduction for him, really, because already he's got off on the wrong foot in our eyes. I would assume. I don't know. I've got no idea what the rest of the viewers think. Whether they're like, men will be men,
Lots of people really like it when there's a bloke that comes in and he's a sexual harassment pervert.
Do they?
Especially if he's good looking. You can do what you want.
But there's also, I don't think the Abby and Kevin relationship is particularly one for the ages, is it? So I don't think people are saying, oh no, they're going to come in and split up golden couple Abby and Kevin. But I wish they weren't going down that route.
Do you know one of the things that really gave me massive ick about him was when it turned out that he knows how to fix an engine himself, and he kind of tricked Abby into pretending that he didn't know what was going on to try to get her to help him.
Did that happen?
I thought he said, oh, he's some mechanical, he's some kind of engineer or something.
Oh, I missed that completely.
Didn't they on Friday say that? And she's like, oh, why did you say that you didn't know what you're talking about?
Oh, I missed that.
I would be so annoyed if somebody did that to me, because you're basically like lying and tricking me.
Yeah.
Also, here's another thing. The Websters are the worst family in the world, right? Because
sweeping statement.
They are.
Just tell us what you really think,
They're my least favourite. Okay, how is it possible that beloved Carl Webster, who's been living in Germany but obviously on the minds of his siblings so much, how's it possible he's never even seen so much of a picture of Abby and vice versa? How is Abby never gone, tell me more about your brother, or what's your brother look like, or anything? Abby and Kevin got married. There was no photos of the wedding anywhere.
I don't get the impression, and they've not really done a whole lot to make us think one way or the other at the moment, but I don't get the impression that they're particularly close.
No, well, Debbie was
we're supposed to be ranting about Debbie's dementia at the moment,
no,
Jen, but you've gone straight in there with sexual predator Carl. No, because the backstory of Carl, for anyone that doesn't know, I suppose, is that after
he was banished from
after
his country.
Debbie and Kevin and Bill were in the programme in 1984, I think it was, just for 1 year. Then they went off. Bill got married to Elaine, who was the niece of Percy Sugden. Yeah? So actually, Percy Sugden is Carl's great uncle. I think that makes sense. Anyway, so Bill and his new wife Elaine had this child Carl, moved off to Germany together, but Kevin and Debbie stayed in the UK.
Okay, so they're half brothers. Yeah, it makes a bit more sense then.
Half brothers and sisters, and the Websters that we know, well, especially Kevin, had nothing to do with him. But obviously they know enough about each other, because when Carl turned up today, they were like, "Oh, how lovely!" Did he turn up as was he a surprise, or had Debbie secretly arranged for his visit?
Well, she won't remember either way now, will she?
She probably knows. No, she won't. She's like, yeah, he's probably like, you told me to come. She's like, did I? Oh, yes, of course I did, love.
I can see why Abby didn't know who Carl was, because she's like, Kev, you got a picture of Carl I can see? No, they haven't cast him yet. But Abby's been in the show the whole time. Carl's got no excuse for not knowing what she looks like. She looks like Sally Carmen.
Carl's introduction just ticked all of the soap cliche tick boxes of how to introduce a character. Like, got an eye for the ladies. Yep. They come in and they just so happen to bump into somebody related to them, and they get their back up, and then they're kind of making googly eyes at each other before long. And Abby was just as bad. She was enjoying the attention, wasn't she? But it's so I just find cliche his introduction was. I hate it when they have that. Oh. Somebody coming into the show and inadvertently getting into a situation. Okay. It's a bit like Ben Price Nick first arrived in the show and he just so happened to chat up Tina McIntyre at the bar.
I know, okay.
Or was it Kylie? I can't remember. It was David's girlfriend at the time, whoever that was.
I know it's stupid and it's a stupid cliche and it's like but what else would you have like? Oh, did you hear the doorbell? Yeah. Oh, it's Carl. Carl's come from Germany. This is the normal way that people come to visit their families every single time. Oh, hello, family. Yes, it is me, Carl Webster. This is my face. I am now been cast.
I don't know. I think that they could have just have Debbie arrange for him to come over and meet them at the bistro and be like, Kev, I got a surprise for you. And then Carl comes.
I'll tell you what, if you know when he was being all flirty with Abby, and he wouldn't take no for an answer when she was like, I'm married, I think I would just vomit all over his engine block and close the lid and say see you later.
You're just jealous that Carl wouldn't give you a second glance to you.
No,
he prefers blondes.
He'd run me over.
Look, we can't talk. This is supposed to come later.
You wouldn't be able to run me over.
This isn't the thing that people are really, 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 really mad about Coronation Street.
Right, I'm just going to say one thing. I'm going to quickly say this now. This dementia thing, I feel like I've been living with Debbie's dementia for months. We already knew this was happening, and I've been through all of the stages of grief, denial, anger.
You're just happy to watch it now.
Literally bargaining, I signed that petition.
We all signed that petition.
To stop it from happening.
I know that internet petitions don't do anything. But
have we spoken about? I think we did speak.
I think we spoke about it on the spoiler cast.
Yeah, because I was like, of all the things they've ever done, this is the only thing I would get down on my knees and beg if they could give me one wish. This would be the only thing I'd ever wish for on Coronation Street for them to change. Do not give Debbie dementia.
It's such an utterly baffling decision.
It's not baffling at all, and I can tell you why it isn't baffling, because it's all anyone is talking about. It is driving so much discourse. People are saying how much they love the character. If you're Kate Brooks, and you come up with
you're doing it now.
I know you come up with this idea. This is everything you could have hoped for when you envisioned this storyline, because given one of your best actresses something really good to do. It's given her a massive, great big storyline that everyone's going to be talking about. And yeah, it is mostly negative, and everyone is saying it is a big mistake. And I do think it is a big mistake, because I think that Sue Devaney had years ahead of her on this show. I don't know how long this story is going to last. I have my own theory about how it's going to come to an end.
What's your theory?
I think what's going to happen is it's going to be prematurely ended. I don't think we're going to see her like Mike Baldwin in it, wandering around and succumbing.
But Mike Baldwin was fairly premature. Yeah. He went through it, I don't know, less than a year maybe.
Yeah, but I don't think she's going to die of having it. I think something else will happen and she'll die.
Well, Mike Baldwin, he ended up
sacrificing herself or something, because I just think
that's what we said about Paul. We're just going to go back to that again.
I just don't think that people want to see her lost and afraid.
I think that it's going to be too much for Coronation Street to resist, because we said this with the Paul story, and we're like, well, I wonder how far down the road of his MND will he get? You know, will he get really frail? Will he lose the power of speech? Will he be in a wheelchair? Surely they won't go, that far into it. And they kind of did, didn't they? Obviously, they didn't have him like lose a whole load of weight or anything, but they went a lot further than that. And the story and actor were very rightly praised because of it. And I think Coronation Street, especially Kate Brooks coming in as a new producer, took a look at what kind of impact that had and the discourse that created, and was like, I fancy a piece of that myself, actually.
I know, but I just don't think that it should be on the cards to have 3 characters with fatal illnesses within a year of each other. It's terrible.
It's absolutely terrible that this is going on.
It's such a bad move for creating.
It's miserable.
It is miserable, and I see why they're doing it, and I'm not going to fault anybody for wanting to hit the headlines and doing it with an actress that people love. And I've seen lots of people going, why don't you do it with somebody nobody likes? what would that achieve?
I know, this is the problem. Sue Devaney clearly is going to be amazing at this. We always, quite often we'll say when a big dramatic story like this happens, we say, oh, so-and-so is one of the best actors in the show. But actually, most of the time, whichever actor gets whichever story, they generally step up to the plate, don't they? And they deliver. I don't think anybody was saying, oh, Peter Ash, he's one of the best actors in the show. We weren't saying it was bad.
They didn't give him...
But they didn't give him time to show. And then they did. And it's like, wow, yeah, that's actually amazing. So I think that lots of characters could have done a really good job, but Debbie is beloved.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. That was probably a deciding factor in who they were going to give it to, because they want you to be emotionally invested in it.
I just really wonder,
it's a real
got
kick in the teeth.
Fetish for medical stuff. Who is it? It's somebody, and I don't think it's the producer.
I don't know.
What is this? What is the deal here? Somebody at ITV like loves like.
It's. I would understand.
Whacking it to ER or something. And they were growing up, and now they're like, oh, we must continue.
I would understand if the feedback clearly wasn't stop it with the medical and police storylines, and it's not even been like people have been complaining about that for a short while. It's been a good couple of years, at the very least, that people have been saying, stop going to the hospital, stop having everyone have these diseases. And in the last 12 months, like you said, it's been, I'll tell you what, we'll give more people more diseases. We'll have 3 people having cancer, one of them dying of it, and then we're going to have this with dementia. It's just too much.
It is. I know that it's part of life, and I know that lots of people live with illnesses, chronic conditions. There are people dying. But I just don't think Coronation Street is about that. And there are so many other things that you could do that they're not doing. That's what gets me. Like, there's absolutely nothing in Coronation Street about how are people coping with inflation? How are people buying groceries? How are people cutting back on stuff? That's a concern of a lot of people. If you want to mirror everyday misery, do that. That's more relatable. I also don't think it's their job, really, to make everyone miserable.
I don't think that the viewers in general have got quite the same relationship with the characters as they did going back 10, 20 years. And there's a lot more characters that people don't really care that much about, sadly.
Yeah, sadly.
And that's partly a result of the plot-led drive that Corrie has had in the past 10 years. But I think that if you were to give a random person a random story about something that's a bit more mundane, I don't think people would buy into it. And one of the ways that Coronation Street chooses to get you into something is by making these high stakes story, because maybe a lot of the characters wouldn't be able to keep you interested in a slice of life story.
I don't know. I know what you're saying. I don't agree with you, but I do think that's maybe what's driving is a fear. I do think that there's a fear at Coronation Street that you can't get people to buy in on slice of life stuff, or
just general kitchen sink traditional soap.
They don't have
stories.
The courage of their convictions that they've got really talented writers and really talented actors that could literally, some of them, like honestly, you could get Evelyn to read out a shopping list and it would be brilliant because of how talented Maureen Lipman is. You can imagine her going, dog biscuits. Oh, what's this?
Yeah.
I think Hope's put jelly on it. She would be able to do a really good job of like looking outraged or confused and we said, like, Friday's episode, I said quite a lot of this is just extraneous chat. There's nothing going on there. They're just talking about something, which is what we want out of Corrie.
Yeah.
But I don't want that and dementia and fatal cancer, terminal illnesses.
Yeah. And the other point to consider with all of this is the discourse around did Sue Devaney jump or was she pushed? And it feels from what's being talked about
it's not right to talk
was that
about
it was this wasn't necessary, or this wasn't her decision. She wasn't up for going.
I don't think it's fair to even bring that up, because I don't.
She's done interviews and people have asked her, what did you think when you found out about this? And I think she's given similar answers to what Peter Ash did in the last year and a half or so, saying, I was a bit not for six when I realised that that would be it for me on Coronation Street, but actually, what a privilege it is for that story. It's really difficult sometimes to see how much of this is kind of spin, how much is it that they're told to say. And I'm sure it is a privilege in some ways, but I don't know. It feels... I'm sure she'd rather have a job at the end of it. Not that Debbie was used loads before, was she? I mean, possibly the alternative to this would be Debbie continues to have, episode counts in the tens every year. We never see her. She comes in, says something camp and funny, and that's it. And we'll just be left saying, "Oh, why can't you do more with Debbie?"
I mean, I think
she hasn't even got a house.
I know, she's going to die without a house.
That's the worst. This is my challenge to Coronation Street. Give her and Debbie a home set.
Her and Ronnie.
Her and Ronnie, a home set before they cart her off in a coffin.
Now, I think a lot of people might be listening thinking we're a bit previous here, or we're giving out spoilers that, this is Debbie's exit storyline, she's going to die of dementia. We are just presuming, because it's not something, it's degenerative. I don't think Coronation Street is going to be... we've got a 5-year plan for giving Debbie dementia before she eventually dies of it. I just think that she has dementia. It's not going to get better. It will only progress. We all know that this is at the end of the line for anybody who gets it. I think, I'm not sure at all. I think that perhaps the earlier you get it, the more... the swifter it progresses, but that could just be me making up crap. I am a podcaster after all.
I'm not in the slightest expecting her to be gone by the end of this year. This is going to carry on until 26. But
I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch this. I just don't want to watch this. I see a lot of people on Facebook, and it does feel a bit like people are being picked off by Kate Brooks the sniper. One by one, the fans are saying, "I'm not watching this anymore. It's just crossed the line for me now. I can't watch it anymore." I really am interested as to whether they're shedding viewers over this. I don't think they are. But if it was down to me at the moment, I'm not sure that I would want to watch it.
I remember you saying that when we found out about it back 3 or 4 months ago.
It's just a step too far for me. I find it too... I just find it just heartbreakingly sad, and I never ever watch things like this of my own accord. I never watch anything like this of my own accord. I just don't find it entertaining. And I honestly think people who find it interesting are a bit insane.
The thing, but we know she's going to do a brilliant job, and maybe that's going to make it even worse to watch, because she'll probably give an absolutely powerhouse performance.
That's why they've given it to her.
It's just sucks so badly that she and Julie represent all that is brilliant about classic campy Coronation Street, isn't it? And this is such a double whammy.
It's like ritually executing all the best things about Coronation Street, like coming into, like, marching into the town square going, "You have been taken over, please send me your funniest women, I will shoot them one by one in front of you."
I remember fuming when I found out what was happening with Julie, and
yeah, you were furious.
I was so furious, but I think that was partly because in my head I knew that this was going to be happening with Debbie as well, and it just feels like,
I thought we'd gotten over it.
Too much.
I thought we'd gotten over it with Paul. It's like, yeah, well done, you did it. You did a good job. Pat, pat, pat. Everyone, awards for you. Well done.
I am glad that
stop now.
I am glad that the fans have made their opinions and views known about this. Like you said, there was that petition that was set up, and it got a good number of signatures, didn't it? Not that these kind of things ever have any sway, and I still don't think that Coronation Street really should
get more signatures. To be honest, it really deserves more the signatures.
I think that Coronation Street would not be, it needs to stick to whatever direction they think it's going to go, and an awful lot would have been planned so far in advance that you can't just make a swerve like this anyway. But I don't think they should. I just wish they hadn't come up with it in the first place.
Yeah, and it's just really cruel.
It has been interesting seeing how they've been presenting this story as well, because when it was broken on social media last week, there were like pictures of smiling Debbie Webster going ha ha ha, and then like quotes from Sue Devaney saying, "It's such an honour, I'm so pleased to be doing this storyline." And it's like, oh come on, and they know what they're doing. They're just trying to say no, it's absolutely fine, and everyone's cool about it. It's a little bit, it protesteth too much. Nobody's falling for that, honestly.
So I'll just say, like I agree with you. I don't think they should ever bow to fan pressure. I think that creative, and I know a lot of people won't agree with that. I think a lot of people will say that's a mistake, you should listen to your fans. But what I'm going to say is that you really have to be completely sure of what you're doing. And Coronation Street needs to wholeheartedly throw itself out. And I've always said this, but have the courage of your convictions. And sometimes I get annoyed about Corrie for starting something and abandoning it, right? But I that's because I think they lose faith in themselves rather than listening to the fans. And I'm going to say also, in the history of Coronation Street, I think genuinely there's only ever been one time I can think of when they've done something that they've changed the story based on feedback, and that was the suicide of
Sheila Birtles.
Sheila Birtles, and they saved her.
Yeah.
They filmed
I think it was probably easier to do back then in 63, 65.
Because they only had 2 episodes. They only had 2 episodes a week, and they could go, "Oh, let's just change it quickly."
Yeah, and they filmed only a couple of weeks in advance.
Yeah, and all the writers, pitch in. Like, writers don't even turn up to the filming. So they wouldn't be able to do anything, and the whole... It's not just a case of changing a story, it's refilming things. Look at what happened with...
Exactly. They've literally only
Martin
just had
Platt.
to do a huge swerve with Martin, and that must have caused so huge headaches behind the scenes. They're not going to turn around and say, well, let's do it again.
So many scenes.
Yeah. Not just for the link to that story, but other people who were mentioning Martin. They've had to do sometimes in the past, like... when they were going to have, I think it was a missing child story for Claire and Ashley, and then that was around the same time as the Madeleine McCann story, I think it was, McCann, and they did change that, and it felt a bit clunky, but... And
they also delayed some episodes because
the Underworld
of Cumbria shootings.
Yeah. But I think in general, if they're going down a path, then you've got to stick to it. Although this storyline does seem to have leaked particularly early.
Yes,
so possibly it could have been easier to change it. Because usually when things leak, they're on screen, a month or 2 later at the most. And this a little bit more.
No, I don't think anybody enters into a story like this lightly. They would have thought about this a lot, and they would have decided that no matter what, this is what they want to do. So there's not going to be any change in their minds. And I just want people to understand that even though I think it sucks and I really genuinely think they shouldn't do it, I still would rather have somebody do this storyline who was so convinced that they're right, in charge of doing it, and putting their vision on the table and showing us some really harrowing stuff. I'd rather have that than them going, I don't know, or people don't like it, I shouldn't do it. There are so many confronting and controversial things and episodes of stuff and TV series that people hate the idea of, and they do it anyway, because sometimes you have to challenge people with art. And I know that sounds like a stupid thing to say about a soap, but there are important stories to tell. I wouldn't choose to watch it if I had the choice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I still do wonder whether, considering the number of characters who are leaving this year of their own volition, or actors that are acting of their own volition, would it have been better to have given the story to them? Could Yasmin have been given this story, for example? Yes, that could have absolutely worked. The problem is, if it's going to be a long runner, if Shelley King says, well, I'm not going to renew my contract next year, that means that she's got to be out of the show in less than a year. And I suppose the idea is that this is going to take a bit longer than that. I think when they gave Mike Baldwin the story back in 2006, that had been, it'd been maybe 2 years at least before that he said, I'm gonna end my contract after then. I am quite interested to see how this compares to Mike, because
everyone's going to make the comparison.
Yeah, if you watch Coronation Street long enough, you will. And he was another character that was particularly sad to see get dementia, because he was such a shrewd businessman, somebody with utter confidence in himself.
So she.
Yeah, and he was very much in denial that anything was wrong with him. And I think that she gets it a bit more. I mean, there weren't any scenes of Mike Baldwin getting the news and then having a massive cry about it, but he was just like, no, I'll be fine. But he had the wind taken out of his sails a little bit, but he was in total denial. I don't think that Debbie is going to be any in denial about it, but she looks like she is going to try and hide it for as long as possible.
But if you're going to pick somebody to give this story to, and you're in a meeting with everybody at Corrie, and you're like, we want to do a dementia storyline, who are we going to give it to? You don't give it to somebody who everyone agrees it's fine to get rid of that character. You give it to somebody who everyone's going to say, oh no, don't do that to her or him, because you want it to have the maximum impact.
I know.
You don't want to do a half-assed dementia story with somebody nobody likes.
I think that it possibly could have worked with Yasmin, particularly. I know that she isn't as popular now as she was 3 or 4 years ago, but it would have been tragic that she managed to get through this terrible ordeal with Jeff only for this horrible disease to catch up with her.
But if you're going to say which one would you hate to lose more, you're going to say Debbie.
Yeah.
And I say that as a fan of Yasmin. I think, unfortunately, you get more bang for your buck if you do it to somebody that everybody loves and hates the idea of this happening to. You just do. That's just how the impact works. And I know that, and I agree with anybody who says they hate the idea and they don't want it to happen and they think it sucks. I totally agree with you. I'd hate it too. But I'm just telling you, from a story perspective, she's the perfect person to do it to, because of all the fuss that's happened. All the fuss that's happened only proves why they're doing it.
I've seen some people commenting in
we
places
can't win
saying,
those, if we didn't say we don't care, then they carry on doing it.
I've seen some people commenting saying, what, Debbie Webster's popular, is she? She's barely even in it. I don't think she's going to be a huge loss, but I think it's almost the potential of Debbie Webster. She's definitely a popular character with a good swathe of the fans, I think, but everyone's wishing that she was in it more, and this is very much a no, not like this kind of moment. Sadly, but we are going to get an awful lot of Debbie on our screens this year, and I'm pleased for that. But just not the way it's happening.
From a sort of purely clinical detachment, I am interested to know, what is she going to find out about it? What are we going to learn about it? Is there any? I mean, I don't know anything about it. Is there any? She's got to go to the memory centre or something. Can they help her? Is
upgrade
there
her RAM?
Oh yeah, see, this is why you've only got 64 gigs. You need way more than that. You want a solid state, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is there something they can do? Is there any way? Is there some kind of? Are there strategies that they can teach her to help her remember things? Is she going to take notes? Is there a medicine that she can take? I've got no idea.
I've got a feeling it's going to feel a bit more like that than it did with Mike.
Yeah, because
which wasn't a PSA.
Well, no, it was back in the day, wasn't it? When was it? How many years?
It's 20 years ago.
20 years ago, they were like, take these leeches and put them in your ears.
It was just all about the character there, and I feel that there's going to be bits where we are taught things. It's also very sad that this is running alongside, obviously, Julie Goodyear, and there's going to be comparisons drawn there, and it's good that money and awareness is being raised of the condition when one of Corrie's biggest icon ever is suffering from it as well, and if it gets more kind of fun.
But you know what? If they were ever going to do the whole,
Pauline Quirk as well.
It's distasteful for us to do this storyline when a real life thing is happening. They would have stopped doing it because of Julie Goodyear. They would have been like, oh.
Yeah.
I think probably a few people have gone, no, we should do it. Look at Julie. We need people to rally to do something. But dude, I feel like we're on an endless treadmill, or one of those hamster wheels of raising awareness for what, to do what, to achieve what. There are very few things that I feel like anyone can do. With Aiden's suicide, at least that helped people, because they went, yes, we've had so-and-so percentage increase, 300% people contacting these mental health services. Who knows how many people's lives were saved.
You also get it with cervical screenings. People often will go to those more often when those.
It just feels.
Kind of
this is why I don't like
nothing you can do
cancer and dementia and the what is it, ALS? What's it called here? With Paul. What was it called?
No,
MND,
yeah.
Well, it just feels hopeless. It feels like you throw money in a hole and nothing seems to happen. I know that's really hopeless of me to say, but that's how I feel about it. I know that there have been loads of really great breakthroughs, but I don't know what they are. I don't know how that happened. I don't know if this is going to do anything.
It's not necessarily about curing it, but it might be about
raising awareness of dementia.
For palliative care or...
Like, okay, yeah, we know it sucks. What else do you want to tell me about it? Here's some money. Does that help? No, not really. I just feel like I'm bashing my head against the wall sometimes with raising awareness of things. Did you know that sometimes some countries you go to the toilet and like a little insect goes up your private parts and eats you from the inside out? Did you know about that? Yeah, raise awareness of it. Tell everyone you know. Yeah, it's horrifying and nightmarish, and you knowing will not help in any way whatsoever. But you should raise awareness and spread the word.
Might make people look before they sit on the loo.
You go to bed and you never wake up because you die in your sleep. Raise awareness, everyone. Don't go to bed. Never sleep. Always be awake and vigilant and scared. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Watching Coronation Street. Raise awareness.
I'm definitely very curious to see how this progresses. I'm also kind of interested for Ronnie as well, who is another character that has really, really been underused. He's not really done anything in 5 years, has he? He's absolutely nothing. And Vinter was a nice guy, and I interviewed him on the podcast a few years ago, and he's very kind of passionate about his character.
Yeah.
So, but he doesn't, as a character, get my motor running. And it's like, well, I'm very, very whatever about Ronnie.
I'm more interested in him now.
I am more interested in him now, and I'm interested to see whether I will like him more. Because I've had an up and down relationship with Billy Mayhew over the years, and actually, during the MND storyline, my appreciation of his character absolutely skyrocketed, and I love Billy again. I used to love him, then I went through a ditch in my love of him, and now I think he's great again. And I'd like this to at least get me interested in Ronnie. And Kevin, we've been a bit down on him recently. How's he going to cope through all this? I don't know, but. We're very early days. I'm sure there are going to be awards. I'm sure there are going to be some brilliant scenes. Even Wednesday's episode, when it first kind of kicked off, people were singing that episode's praises, weren't they? Despite all the opposition that there'd been towards the story. And I know people were saying, I know she'll do a great job. But yeah, everyone was saying, wow, what a powerful episode that was. So I guess I'm looking forward to more like that. But anyway, look, to cut a long story short, that's the first story that we're going to be talking about today. We're probably going to talk about some others as well.
I know, I'm sorry, it just came out the gate because you told me off for moaning about Carl and not Debbie, so I moved on.
I know, we're like over half an hour into this section of the podcast now. We haven't even announced what other stories we're talking about. We're going to do a little bit more of Todd gives the nod to the god with the bod. Another slime ball, Gemma, that Theo.
Oh dear.
Secret double life. Then we have got the ray of sunshine in this week, which is the jubilant return of Dorin Pop. Dorin Pop's back to the street.
Yeah, but did you know
it writes itself storyline title there.
They're going to do a story with him where he falls into a wood chipper.
It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if it's like, oh yeah, Dorin's back. Hooray, everybody. Yeah.
Where's he gone?
Leukemia.
I left the wood chipper running outside just because I was doing something and I forgot to turn it off. I don't know where he is, but I see a fine red mist in the air.
It was a very good move, I think, to bring him back on Wednesday, which was the very, very miserable Debbie's got in a hopeless situation, and everybody loves Dorin, don't they? So putting him in the episode did just add a little bit of levity that we needed.
I like the fact that Dorin will say things in a scene. Obviously, he's a very engaged child, right? I just want him to, in the middle of like Tyrone telling Cassie that she's a skank, Dorin to be like, why are they killing Debbie?
Yeah, they should.
They shouldn't kill Debbie, she's a funny lady.
Yeah, Dorin unfiltered, I like it.
Dorin should have a podcast.
They're clearly, I did, when he came back again, I was like, I wonder whether he's just going to be running his mouth off again. And like the first episode, he was talking about crayons or something, wasn't he? And then he was blathering all the way through yesterday's, Friday's episode.
He was.
And they're clearly, they could say, okay, let's do that again. Just shut up, child. Have a lollipop or something. But I think they get that people really liked that about Dorin the last time, so they're not gonna shut him up. He'll stop eventually. He's gonna grow out of it within years. I don't know how long he's staying in the program. Is Alina's should we be watching out for her safety at the moment? Is she gonna
did he get that?
Pop her clogs soon? There's a storyline title.
Yeah. I imagine him walking from Romania with a little knapsack on a stick. How did he get there?
I can't remember. They were in Romania, weren't they? Because I know they lived in Hastings for a little bit, but I think they
they're
were back in Romania.
Aren't they? Very similar places.
Yeah, Alina's flat is flooded, which is the same fate that's befallen Betsy and Lisa.
That cat is still paddling somewhere.
I really want something to happen about that flat. It's like the scaffolding outside number 1. They're just going to keep on living with Carla until hopefully people forget that they ever lived somewhere else. But anyway,
and also they don't have any of their stuff with them. There's nothing of Lisa in Carla's flat, is there? It's just all Carla stuff. She brought a box with her.
Brought a couple of cans of Iron Brew, probably. And that's about it.
She's obviously just completely fine with everything. That maybe it'd be so funny if they showed us Lisa's flat and it was just almost identical to Carla's. She's like, I kind of forgot that this wasn't my house.
So we're going to talk about the Dorin story. I've tied up the skank and the plank with that as well. Tim Foster is my next storyline title.
Did you say he was an astronaut?
No. I was telling you about this yesterday. He's a rower.
Oh.
Tim Foster is an Olympic rower, and a terrible storyline title for this, I know, but
I thought we should call this storyline "Idle Tim Lazily Forgets to Paint a Fence."
Yeah,
I've got a bee in my body about Tim not painting his fence. Me and you have spent cumulatively if you add up the hours, probably 24 hours worth of painting wood over the last week.
This week, yeah, we've done a lot of
I'm sick
painting.
and tired of it, and if I can do it, bloody Tim can get off his arse and do it. Although I will defend him slightly in the fact that Sally only mentioned it when it was already raining. And you shouldn't be
just
doing
getting ready. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but we have had people on the tour today. You asked people going on the tour to take photos of the fence at number 4, and that fence has not seen hide nor hair of a paintbrush.
Sean in Brum very kindly sent me some pictures of the Metcalf's garden, and they're filming 3 months in advance, so he still hasn't painted that damn fence.
I think the worst thing about the Metcalf's garden, we will get on to talking about the actual story soon as well, is that Sally's horrible fake grass.
Oh no, don't say that.
It just looked dreadful.
We had a lovely listener confront us about having fake grass, defending themselves and saying that they have fake grass, and we have to forgive these people.
I don't like it.
You have to benevolently allow them to have fake grass.
It feels like Sally wouldn't have fake grass.
No, but
it's not the high class, swanky thing to show off. Look at the quality of my blades.
I think that it's a production thing. I don't think it's actually supposed to be fake grass. I think it's because they don't want to maintain the grass in the gardens.
I think it is completely. Although
narratively, that's not fake grass.
Rose tinted glasses. Back in the day, they had real grass. And it just looked very, very fake and unnecessarily unrealistic when we had Sally and Tim. And I was left thinking, are we supposed to be ignoring this? Because I don't feel that Sally would be seen dead.
No. I totally disagree with you there. I bet she's going to be like, I went round Maisie Cunningham's house this weekend, and she's got fake grass, and she's got a special detergent that she puts on it that makes it smell of fresh grass. It's amazing. It saves so much time. Think of all the time.
Fresh cut grass smell.
Think of all the time, Tim, that you spend cutting that grass, where you could be inside doing some kind of DIY, or maybe making that new summer house I said that you should make. Save so much time. It's really classy and highbrow. It's more expensive than real grass.
I can't remember whether the other houses there have also got fake grass.
They do.
But,
I don't think the plants in the back garden do, but the front garden.
Because
there's no sun.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, we're gonna.
What a boring conversation.
No, it's fine. It's fascinating. We got a little bit of the big DD decision this week, a little bit more of the revenge story, a little bit more of Dylan the villain, and there's also been going on to the pub as well. But really, then we had to get through those in about 5 minutes altogether, because like we were insinuating, the vast majority of this week's Coronation Street was everything that was going on with the Websters at number 13 and wherever it is that Debbie's supposed to live. Is she actually supposed to have a house, or does she just live in the hotel? She doesn't, does she? She's got a place.
She must do.
I'd really, really like to see it, because I just want to see what Debbie's decor style is.
Oh, yeah.
I think looking at her outfit.
Yes, I can imagine her having
Just
this kind
think
of
how
like
kooky and
maximalist, like jungle vibes, like big, like navy and emerald green and big plants and brass lampshades and animal print.
I kind of see her living in like, you know, Austin Powers' pad with colours all over the place, I think it'd be fabulous, but I don't know whether Ronnie would be up for that, but I'd like to imagine, because I just don't know how on earth they can possibly go through this story without showing where she lives. Because how long is she going to be able to run Chariot Square?
Out a lot in the Webster's house.
Yeah, she does, but it's very, very cost-cutty if they don't build her own set just to see her off, because she can't be going to live at the Websters forever.
They've built sets for less reasons than.
Do you think that we will see a retirement of Chariot Square Hotel with Debbie going out?
No, I don't want them to get rid of that, because it means more hospital and police station scenes.
I don't mind the hotel as much, but I think it's only because it isn't used so much. It would be a bit of a shame to. Would it be a shame to see the back of it?
I like it.
I don't mind it. I suppose it's one of these things, though, you know, when you got the bistro and the speed dial, what need is there for any Coronation Street character to ever eat elsewhere? And you don't get the scenes of them going out into Manchester. I know, but with the hotel, it's like if somebody's going to a hotel, they just so have to be staying at Chariot Square, you know? Or if they're going away somewhere for a fancy business meeting that they don't want somebody to find out about, or they just so happen to go to Chariot Square there as well.
I know, but they could also... Why don't people get married there? Has anyone ever got married there?
I thought that Toya and Imran got married at Chariot Square.
The new one, the new design.
No, when it was still in its old guise.
And they can get any set and just say this is in Chariot Square Hotel. They could go and film somewhere else and be like, this is just a function room.
Anyway, the more they have of Chariot Square, that just means the more there are illicit liaisons, and I'm not really a fan of that kind of storyline. So. Okay. Speaking of Carl and Abby, how long is it going to be? Do you think that Carl and Abby are going to be at it at the hotel sometime? Debbie finds out about it because she works there and then forgets that she ever saw them.
I'm sorry if I'm being flippant about dementia. I genuinely don't know how it works.
No, but
I don't think it's just being forgetful, is it? It's not just like, I don't remember you said that.
I think
there's
that
more to it than that.
I would have thought that another thing they took away from the Paul storyline is if you're going to do a horrible, horrible illness storyline like this, trying to find some light in it somewhere.
I know, but I'm sick of it. I went along with it I thought I was being magnanimous because I did not like the idea of the story, but I decided to give it a chance. How very big of me. But I'm just sick and tired of trying to be the big person when it comes to Coronation Street. I shouldn't have to give it a chance. No, I want to be entertained. I don't want to be
You want a story to start and you go, oh my gosh, they're doing this story. This is going to be brilliant.
This is going to be fantastic. I don't want to be like, well, okay, if it makes me a better person by the end.
If it raises my awareness of something, then it's probably for the best.
Existed. I'm sorry, I'm being really sarcastic and evil about this, but I don't want them to do it.
Well, a lot of people this week have been feeling quite positive about the prospect of Sally and Tim being foster parents, haven't they? So that's got a few people excited.
I'm sorry, but Sally said no.
I know she did.
That Tim won't take notes. He's like, I'm the only one that gets to make unilateral decisions about the future of this family. I said, no more mayoring and you stop being the mayor. And I say, more fostering and we're going to do it. I'm the man of the house, Sally.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to paint that fence either, so forget it.
Right, come on, let's do a bit of synopsising. Maybe we'll be a little bit quicker today.
Maybe Sally can get some strapping foster sons to paint that goddamn fence of hers.
Maybe she can, yeah. They're looking out for wayward teenagers like Mason, aren't they? Yeah. That's the plan.
I have to wait for Dorin to grow up a lot.
I saw some people online I saw saying that maybe Brody's going to get out and they'll be fostering Brody. I don't think I'm particularly interested in that. Although his hair would make an excellent paintbrush, wouldn't it? Just imagine dunking him with that voluminous mop into a paint can. That fence will be done in no time.
Fostering Brody sounds like a really bad 90s movie that had Macaulay Culkin in it. And at the end, the parents die in a tragic accident.
Right, come on. What's happened this week? Monday's episode. I mean, the story probably kicks off on Wednesday, doesn't it, with this dementia story. Monday was all about how grumpy and sad Kevin is. And Abby's trying to G him up with a post-it note on his box of crunchy Monster Flakes, but he's really not in the mood for taking any advice about perking up from anybody. From Abby, Debbie pretty much says the same thing to him. Jack is still in a mood with him about last week, and Debbie's saying just go easy on him, Kev, but Kev's not in any mood for that either. Fortunately, at least, we do have Tyrone working back at the garage again today, and much in the same way that when Lisa told Carla the other week, we're through, we're finished, I can't concentrate on you anymore. Next episode, they were back canoodling again. Well, Tyrone wasn't canoodling with Kevin in Monday's episode, but he had done a full 180 on his quitting the garage thing, and he was helping Abby out, fortunately for her, because she's a little bit overworked now, bless her. Kevin, meanwhile, is back at number 13, catching him trying to... No, he's not. Was he at the garage or was he at the house? I can't remember. Whichever one it was, Jack wants to go out later, and Kev's like, you can't, you're grounded, you've been fighting at school. You need to learn your lesson, you. And... I still stand by what I said last week, that Jack is in no way intimidating, a fighter, anything like that, is he? And when they had him squaring up to Kevin and Jack saying, you pathetic loser, and pushing past him, I was getting major Viper from Gladiator vibes.
Yeah.
You tried your best, Jack. But
yeah, you're not scaring anyone.
No, you're really, really not. Debbie takes Kevin to task for this, saying, well, what are you thinking? You can't keep falling out with folk, with your wife, with your son, with Tyrone. There's not going to be anyone left. Kevin's like, don't need you either, Debbie. Bugger off. You can leave. Don't want anything to do with you. He's not making himself very easy to like at the moment. Not that I'd want to tell somebody who's going through his horrible cancer exactly how he should behave. But is the idea of this, do you think, to try and persuade Abby that seeking solace in another man's arms wouldn't be the worst thing?
You see, when this happened, okay, when he was being a dick, and he's been a dick for a while now, I was like, do you know, this is actually refreshing, because it's nice to see Coronation Street showing somebody who is suffering from an illness, not being a holy, sainted, long-suffering...
This is like Daisy when she lost her baby, wasn't she? And she bit Dee Dee's head off and saying, oh, sorry, is that not the reaction that I was supposed to give?
Yeah, like... I think it's okay to be a dick and behave badly and be mad and angry. I can't... I'm baffled that anyone isn't like that. It's much more... I think people are soothed and our angst is settled somewhat when we watch a show or a programme or anything or film with a victim of something, and they're just being so
very stiff upper lipped.
Yeah, but benevolent and kind, and I've accepted my fate. I think that we find comfort in that because it makes us feel like perhaps that would be us, and there is hope for acceptance. But I think kicking and screaming and telling everyone to bugger off because you're dying is completely normal, and I found it very refreshing. Up until the point when I realised that they're doing it so that we think that Kevin's horrible and she should shag Carl instead, which feels really horrible to me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm preferring watching Julie and how she's going through cancer than Kevin at the moment, is what I think. But maybe that's just because I like to put my fingers in my ears and go, la, 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 la.
It's very confronting how Kevin is acting. He's not going quietly. Not that I think he's anything. And it kind of is interesting to contrast the two, because I think that Julie has basically got to the stage where she's like, this is it. There's nothing else for me. I can either scream and cry or enjoy my life while I've got it. Whereas Kevin feels like, I've got more leeway here because I'm having a crap time, but it's perfectly possible that I'll be fine. And so I've got a bit more leeway here. I'm not enjoying this. This isn't all there is for me. There is a future. Whereas Julie's like, if I don't act nice now, if I don't enjoy myself now, I will have nothing.
Julie seems to be doing a bit of a Trisha Goddard, isn't she, with her diagnosis at the moment?
Well, apparently people are hating Trisha.
Are they? We've only watched a little bit of Big Brother this week.
People are getting annoyed at her. I'm basing this off one tweet, but it had a lot of likes. Okay.
Well, probably.
And I can't even remember
then.
what it said. I just pick up on the vibes.
Okay, so Trisha's gone into the Celebrity Big Brother house with terminal cancer.
Well,
and she's saying, life's for living.
I know, but when I saw... I did think to myself, I bet people are going to get quite sick of her very quickly because she does seem like she's going to have an opinion on everything. Because that's why she has a show. She's got
nothing to lose, has she?
That's what I'm like. I've got an opinion on everything and nobody wants to hear it.
Anyway, back to Coronation Street. Kevin's in the pub later. He just wants some lager. Glenda's like, don't know whether you should be drinking in your condition, Kev. Shut up, I'll have a drink if I want to. Kevin says back. So this is when the punch happens, which was quite fun and out of the blue. Tyrone sidles up to Kevin in the pub wanting to talk, but Kevin's not in the mood. He just wants everyone to mind their own business, and then he just, without too much provocation, knocks Tyrone's lights out and right in the middle of the bar, and then he gets himself barred. So that was quite good. Do like a good old soap punch, don't you?
But didn't I say, like, Kevin's not got a very big toolbox for expressing his emotions.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I think that this is totally right. I think that he would be like, what? Me sad? No, me angry, me punch.
Yeah, well, especially when he feels that Tyrone left him in the lurch last week saying, I don't want anything to do with this business anymore.
I tell you what I really liked this week was that scene where you had Abby trying to get Tyrone to take over at the garage even though he wasn't scheduled because Kevin was very sick. And you got to see their side of the conversation, which is like, look, it's perfectly reasonable for us to ask Tyrone to cover because you're battling a serious illness that could kill you and you're not feeling very well and we need this guy who's supposed to be our friend to help us. Then you cut to Tyrone. He's sitting in the house surrounded by chaos. He's got plans for the day. He knew what he wanted to do. He's supposed to have the day off. And he's like, I don't think it's fair for you to ask me all the time to cover you just because on a whim. And I just really liked seeing both sides of that conversation and it's nice thinking to myself that both of them have a point and you rarely get that on Corrie, but they've got so much potential because almost everybody is somebody's favourite character. Yeah. And when you have a disagreement between two of them, quite often Corrie will kind of push you to one or the other, won't they?
Yeah.
So that was good. I just thought
that was good. Jolly good. Kevin goes back home. Gets a bit shouted at by Abby, who's heard what he's been up to. But they have a nice pie and chips later, and it's very civil. And
no, they have a very dry dinner.
Yeah.
That pie and chips was the
driest.
Needed
gravy, didn't it?
Yeah.
But just when you think things are starting to go well for them, Abby makes the comment that, I know what it's like, Kevin. I've been really ill in the past too. And Kevin's like, oh, addiction, self-inflicted. Which, I think it probably is natural for him to think and say, because he's like, I have done nothing to deserve this. And it's not like I think that he's been kind of having that lingering inside him, this resentment towards his wife. But I think if you're in that kind of mood, then it's probably understandable that he might fire that one back as advised as it might be if he had any chance to think about it before he opened his mouth, don't you?
Well, why has he got ball cancer? What's he been doing with them? Sticking him in the microwave, probably.
Maybe he got that idea of the South Park then, episode. Isn't it? Yeah. So all of this drama as well, it's not just to try and push Abby into Carl's arms, but it's also obviously to make Debbie not want to open up to her family about her particular predicament because she doesn't want to add yet more fuel to the fire that is just the general life of the Websters at the moment. Anyway, Abby ends up in the garage with Tyrone, who says, I never thought it would come to this between me and Kevin. I've always trusted him, apart from that whole thing about Molly, of course. But we survived that. And Abby just doesn't know what to do. She says, I played my hand and I'm not sure how much I've got left to give. Debbie later has a very interesting scene, doesn't she, over at Dee Dee's flat. And this is when you start to realise, if you hadn't done so already, there's definitely something going wrong with Debbie here, because they're having a bit of a chat about the baby and then Mick, and then Debbie just kind of zones out, doesn't she? I wrote down, I've even got in a note here that it's an absent seizure, but it wasn't, was it? It was, what did they call it on Wednesday's episode?
A TBI?
TBI. TIA, that's it.
Traumatic, what is it?
I've written it down
That's what
somewhere.
they thought I had. Remember when I had my brain scan?
Did they?
Yes, it's like a mini stroke.
A transient ischemic attack.
Yeah, that's why they scanned my brain.
But yeah, she just kind of was looking, and
I didn't. By the way.
You don't have one, no.
I didn't.
Yeah, I thought that was very well done. She just kind of loses it, and the camera is zoomed right in on her face, so you can see that there's like nobody home inside, is there? And then she just kind of flicks back to normal, and Dee Dee says, well, what's then? Are you okay? And she kind of tries to play it off, but by the end of the episode, she's phoning her doctor, her very private doctor, for an appointment tomorrow because she's got oodles of cash.
Private doctor for money.
Yeah. So yeah, things aren't looking right for there. Then you got Tyrone going around to 13 later again for a chat. He wants to sort things out with Kevin, who's still in a grump. He's
still got cancer.
He's still got cancer. He's just mad at everything. He's mad at Dev now for jetting off to India and not answering any of his texts.
What's Kevin texting Dev about in India?
Do you get the impression that Kevin and Dev are best buds when the cameras aren't pointing at them?
You imagine Dev living up in India, like having some beautiful food and dancing and with beautiful women, and he looks at his phone, he's like, God, what a bummer.
I thought that he was nursing Uncle Umed back to health.
Uncle Umed's fine, okay. I reckon Uncle Umed and Dev are like sailing down some river.
Maybe it was Ravi that was
sick.
Sick.
I don't think it was Umed. Was
it
Umed?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was Ravi that's not doing so well.
I think that they just left Ravi to languish in bed and they're off.
Anyway, Tyrone's saying they just talk about Kevin worried that he's on his way out, and Tyrone saying, no, look, nobody's saying that. Kevin wants to know what the reward is for his life a hard graft. Is it cancer? Well, this isn't fair, is it? And then they apologise to each other, and Tyrone agrees to go back to work.
Say something here, and that was that, he's saying, what I get out of life, and Tyrone's like, it's your family.
Oh yes, he did, didn't he?
And I totally get that, but it does make you feel left out if you don't have children. So I was quite grateful for whoever wrote the episode where they were all chatting and Ronnie was there, and he says, even though this was only so that we would feel sorry for him about what's happening to Debbie, and Ronnie says, I don't need any of that, I just got my partner and she's enough for me. And I really like that representation. I know a lot of people will probably roll their eyes about it, but it does really feel like you get left out so much if you don't have kids, because the ending of almost every film or the moral of almost every tale is don't worry about it because your kids are your life and they love you no matter what. And you think, well, I've got a cat, but if I died, she'd just go and get another. She'd go to the Blue Cross.
And even Ronnie, he's avoiding going to see Dee Dee and Layla, isn't he?
He obviously doesn't want a kid, but you know what I mean. It was really nice just to have somebody validate. I don't need that, but and also without belittling everyone else and saying, I couldn't have kids, I'd hate that. We don't need to disparage each other's choices, but it did when Tyrone said that to Kevin, I did feel a bit like, oh well, I guess I'll just die of cancer and it won't matter then. You know what I mean? But equally, of course, it's really important to you if you have a family, and it is something that you consider if you're thinking about if you're going to die. What's my legacy? What do you leave behind? Not everybody has 13 years worth of podcasting to leave to the world. So
I don't know what Ronnie's got. I'll tell you that, if he
abs.
If he's left on his own. I do wonder what's going to happen to Ronnie at the end of this. It wouldn't surprise me if they retire him as a character, because literally the only thing he's had going for him over the past few years is he's going out with Debbie, so maybe there's some potential there, and with her taken away from him, I don't know what the point of him is.
It was really nice to see him talk about how much he loves Debbie this week and be a bit romantic about it and say, how much she means to him. Because previously to that, it just genuinely felt like they were just together because they both had a business and they were like, we liked business. Should we business together?
I agree.
Let's just join our businesses.
We've got no sense of the intimacy or the love or anything between them.
What do they do at home? What food do they cook together? It feels like
Corrie has thrown them together because why not? But because we don't see them ever at home, we barely see them together at all. And how long have they been together now? 3 years or so? Got no idea what they're like as a couple. So maybe that's something that this story's going to have going for it. It's going to hopefully get us to buy into them, even though it's obviously too little too late.
See, I think that this is something sad that Swallow fans are going to have to come to terms with, that as much as you would love it and as much as it's enjoyable, unless something is happening in the relationship, you're not going to get the scenes that you're craving of the pizza eating and the massaging the shoulders and touching hair and gazing into each other's eyes.
Yeah.
Because almost no other couples get any of that unless they're breaking up or getting together.
Oh, I don't know. Nick and Toya had their scooter ride last
They
week,
did have a
didn't they?
scooter adventure,
Their random
didn't they?
cookie adventure, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, Coronation Street is just really bad with doing anything like that unless there is a story reason. And I can see why, to a certain extent, but when they do it, it's just so lovely to watch. It was really nice to see Ronnie talk about how much he loves Debbie. And I'm not really a big into Ronnie and Debbie together as a couple. I just really, really like Debbie.
Yeah. I suppose back in the day when there were fewer couples and they all just ended up in the Rovers at the end of the day, even if they weren't big in a story, they'd just be there in the background, so you'd have more of a consistent idea about what they were like. But now, like you say, if they're not in a story, or if that story isn't on the rotation or in the filming block, then they might as well be dead. I've seen some people even this week saying, I can't believe we're going a week and a half without any Carla and Lisa scenes. What's going on? Well, it's like you say, get used to it.
Get used to it. I'm sorry that this will happen, but it will.
For any couple, you need to get used to going long periods of time never seeing them.
And I'm not saying it like, get used to it, welcome to the world. I'm not saying it like that. I'm just saying, like, unfortunately, it is a sad...
Brace yourselves.
It is a sad fact of life that this is what Coronation Street does. And we've said about many times before that it would be lovely if they didn't.
Anyway, on to Wednesday's Showcase Spectacular.
Oh, this was a very special episode.
It was, wasn't it? And from the opening seconds of Wednesday's episode, it was like, okay, they're doing something big here. This is going to be one of those episodes. And I don't think it rose to the heights of, say, Mason's stabbing episode, because that was all about that, wasn't it? But for the first quarter, up to the first ad break, and I'm so glad that they did this, it was all Debbie.
Yeah.
And having her sit down, face the camera, stare
look
us
at us,
in the eyes, that was a really, really... I don't remember who directed this
Duncan
episode.
Foster?
I don't remember, but that was a really good decision, and it just made her feel so vulnerable. And we heard the doctor's voice, didn't we? But it was like she was telling us, and she was kind of reaching into our souls, and it just made...
Oh, yeah.
Not our souls.
Okay.
No, I'm not being Kirk here.
Just check in again.
Yeah, very well done.
I said to you, there's a very exciting possibility that could come next year when we go back, when we go to half-hour episodes, when Corrie starts to do every day, half hour, that it is possible, because this made me believe that they could do this, that one episode, one day in Coronation Street could be a one-hander.
And I think EastEnders have done the odd one-hander. I'm pretty sure Dot Cotton got one
yes,
time.
Yes, I think you're right.
But
it's not like I made up the idea. But
I was wondering how long they were going to stick with this on Wednesday, and I don't think it would have worked for the whole episode.
But I can't remember. Yeah, Jack was in one of them, so it wasn't actually a
no, it wasn't a proper one-hander. But
it was. It shows the potential of the form, because that was a quarter of an episode. You only had to do another quarter to have been a whole, single half-hour episode.
Yeah, but then where would the development have been? It would have just been her telling us stuff that we kind of already knew. Although, to be fair, they did fill in a few blanks, and some of the blanks I'd forgotten about. She's basically talking to the doctor about this catalogue of incidents, she calls it, that she's been going through in the last couple of weeks. So we get to see, for example, purse in the fridge, which is what we'd said had happened. I mean, it was probably fairly obvious that when she lost her purse the other day and then she opened the fridge that it was in there. But we got to see it. What were you saying?
This is where you just said purse in the fridge. It just sounded like a CBeebies television show about a magical creature that lives in the fridge and only the children can see it. It eats cheese and leaves footprints in the butter.
Then we get to see the flashback of her yelling about Jack being a stupid little brat, which we see more of later. Then we get to see her the thing that wasn't actually a seizure, it was a TIA. Then there was a flashback to the Ginnell incident when she's shouting at Mick's music for being too loud. So she starts to tell the doctor about what happened with Mick, and then the purse incident, and she said how mortified she was when she found it in the fridge, and then just carried on blaming Mick. And
Mick's the real victim here.
Yeah, he's just being maligned, isn't he?
Unfairly
maligned. No, he's a scumbag himself, isn't he? So that was interesting to see how she was like, I was so embarrassed, I just had to go along with Ronnie's story that maybe maybe it was Mick who was the one that was to blame here. Then she goes on to say about Kevin's cancer and Abby's PTSD and how Jack's having fights at school, and it does start to sound a little bit ridiculous about how many of these things are converging on one character. But
I know it was a bit
mind.
like she was like, oh, my brother's got cancer, my nephew's got one leg.
I know. The doctor's like, I diagnosed you a soap character. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's terminal.
Yeah, sorry. It's like, check your contract.
Flashback to bringing Jack home from school, after this fight, him wanting to play on his PlayStation and her chucking the controller. And that was new, wasn't it?
Yes.
I don't remember seeing her chucking the controller, but I do remember the scene where she was staring at the controller that was broken on the table.
I thought she was just being thoughtful.
I thought that she was. I thought that Jack had broken the controller, and I think, I don't know whether we were supposed to wonder whether how has that got broken, or whether we were supposed to assume that in his newfound teenage angst, Jack had a bit of a chuck across the room session with it. But yeah, it was her being mad at him. And that's why she gave him the chocolate controller afterwards as well. She's like, I don't know what came over me. I've never shouted at him like that before.
It sounds like a parable of the
parable of the broken controller.
Much use as a chocolate controller.
She says, I've had a few other angry outbursts as well. This is when we see her going back to the music incident with Mick in the Ginnel. I loved it when she said, what was it she said? It was out in the Ginnel. That's an alley to you posh folk. That was a brilliant line. I think it was one of my lines of the episode. I absolutely loved it. And then she says, I was around Mick's house, I was having a moan at him, and then I had no idea what happened. One minute I was standing up, the next minute I felt dizzy and I was on the ground, and you see her falling over him and bashing her head. Obviously, there was no idea. We'd never really believed that Mick attacked her, did we?
No.
I don't think we were even supposed to think that.
I don't think... as much as Mick is an arsehole and a predator, I don't think he's a woman beater.
No.
To somebody as diminutive as Debbie is.
No way.
And I'm just looking up, because we mentioned the direction, Ellen Taylor wrote this episode.
She did indeed, yes.
Which is fantastic, and I'm just waiting to see it come up, who it is that's... I'm watching it on ITVX.
You just got your ITVX player on your phone at the moment, haven't you?
Just kind of
anyway, that was the end of the first part, and she says, and that's why I'm here, Doctor. So after the break, and it's over at the pub, and we get to see the contrasting scenes between this light-hearted darts tournament that's going on in the Rovers. The whole gang are there. Kevin's there. I think Eileen's there, who's apparently a darts demon.
It was
Ronnie.
David. Is it Beecham or
Beauchamp? I don't know. Oh, there we go. Anyway, Ronnie calls Debbie to see if she'll join them, but she's still at the doctor's, so she just ignores it. The doctor tells her that she might have had a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. The question is, why?
Just for a laugh.
Let's have a look through your notes. Just fancied her. Dee Dee was going on about the baby, and I couldn't think of anything more dull in my life, so I just zoned right out. Yeah.
It's on my bucket list to try all of the different medical conditions that one might be able to get. So I've done that. I might have a stroke later on. Heart attacks on the cards.
Yeah, try before you buy. Try before you commit.
Yeah.
What horrible condition do you want to have this year?
I might
on
have
the front of a soap magazine.
What's David got?
He's got epilepsy.
I might have epilepsy because he's fine with that, isn't he? I might just have my kidney taken out like Tracy and Carla.
Oh, those are the days when people on Corrie got horrible diseases, but they just managed to carry on with their life as normal.
Do you remember when Amy got the deadly condition of being allergic to dairy?
I know. She don't know how lucky she was.
You wouldn't be allowed that now, would you? You'd have to be allergic to air or something.
To oxygen,
just go in a bubble.
Water Imagine
bubble.
that, yeah. Doctor says, well, look, you've had blood tests and stuff for anxiety recently, and you talked about having brain fogs as well. And she says, oh yeah, I think it's just down to the menopause. And this is something that she keeps coming back to throughout this, doesn't she? She's in a bit of denial. I think when he tells her, I think it's dementia, she gets it. But we're led to believe that she'd been kind of brushing it off before, just thinking it was a menopause thing.
It's very scary being a woman and having this waved in front of your face, and I blame Davina McCall for this, because I feel as though I was completely unaware and kind of blissfully ignorant about this looming catastrophe that awaits me in the future of the menopause, which is apparently going to make me think I've got dementia for years on end, and I'm going to sweat a puddle and not know what's going on and be sad.
What's Davina been doing?
Well, she just raised awareness, didn't she?
Good for her. Yeah. She's not even a soap character or anything.
I know, she told to calm down, love. But, there's a lot of scary symptoms of menopause, and I think she's quite sensible to put it down to that. I also kind of appreciated Coronation Street for writing in that Debbie has had depression and anxiety, because I'm glad she didn't make it my problem when she had it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I'm not.
She just got on with it quietly, didn't she?
I just think that normalising having anxiety and depression is kind of a good thing, because honestly, of all the people on the street, do you feel like she's a character you would say might have those things? Not really, but it's good to remind everybody that it's okay.
But it could well be.
I could believe like that
that what she puts on her personality is a bit of a front.
Yes.
Because she's so in your face and bubbly and relentlessly. Yeah, cheery, like you say. It could well be a coping mechanism with the high stress that comes with being a hotel boss.
And it also kind of
the only hotel in Weatherfield is probably very stressful. Everyone wants to stay there.
It normalises it, and it kind of makes you feel as though you're not alone if you've had that in your own history. Look at her now. Don't worry if you've got depression. You might get dementia one day, and then it puts it into perspective, doesn't it?
We get to see another flashback then of another scene that we hadn't seen before of her. She's in the bar at the hotel making some notes, and she looks down at her clock and her phone, and it's a certain time, and then she looks back again, and an hour and 20 minutes has passed.
Tell you what, I wish that happened to me when we were painting the decking.
Yeah, that would have been handy earlier today, wouldn't it? Yeah. And
time travel? I didn't know you got that when you had dementia. Only in one direction though, really. A bit of a bummer.
She says, "Oh yeah, then I was late for a meeting because of it. Is this something to do with with the TIAs as well, or maybe
this is just so depressing because she's telling him all this stuff, not even realising she thinks that this TIA is the problem.
Yeah,
but unfortunately,
she hasn't considered
that there's a bigger issue at play here.
And I suppose this is one time when I don't know. Was it better that we knew what she was going to be diagnosed with at the end, because she's kind of being blissfully unaware and we'll say, "Oh, Debbie, we know what's coming," or would it have been better if we had no spoilers whatsoever with this? I don't know.
I think some spoilers are trigger warnings, which is fair enough, and I do sometimes feel like I'm really overly harsh on Coronation Street, because I do feel like I'm forced to watch it because of this show. I'm not blaming anyone who's listening. I'm blaming you, Michael. But
I know.
I think that having the choice to watch it or not is important. And so giving out these spoilers like they did with Aidan, saying this could actually really impact your mental health. So be aware of what we're going to talk about. But the thing about Coronation Street is it's an ensemble show. You can't... What are you going to do? Dip out for a year and wait for Debbie to die and then come back?
I'd be interested to know what happened with anybody who didn't know about this story beforehand, because it was very, very highly publicised, wasn't it?
We're saying that she's got it, and at this point, at this stage, even by the end of the week, it's not clear that this is what has happened.
I think clearly the way that Wednesday's episode was shot and made out to be, this is super serious, I don't think there would be any doubt.
It would be a bit weird if they went through all this rigmarole and then were like, oh no,
it's just the menopause.
It is the menopause.
Who'd have thought? Sorry for over dramatising it a bit.
I'm going to go. Davina's going to come in a minute and explain what you're in for.
What else do we have? We got a bit more at the back at the pub, and all the guys there talking about their lack of purpose. This is what kind of spurs
their purpose or their lack of purpose.
Yeah, so this is what spurs Ronnie on to decide that he's going to propose to Debbie, and it's also Tim. This is what makes him want to go into fostering. There you
go. You can make your family, can't you?
Exactly.
What if you don't have a spare bedroom?
So,
what if you have a spare bedroom but you use it for podcasting? What about
that? Ronnie says he's just waiting for the right time to propose to Debbie, and Kevin's like, well, don't hold back because I'm a cancer, and Ronnie's like, oh yeah, okay, then maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it in the next episode even. So back at the doctor's, Debbie's being asked if Ronnie's noticed any of what's been going on, and she says that he's agreed with her that it's just menopausal, it's fine. She hasn't, however, told him about the collapse in the Ginnell, the full details about it, or the purse in the fridge incident.
Even that genuine... I don't think collapsing is a symptom of menopause, but don't tell me if I'm wrong, I don't want to know. But I think putting your purse in your fridge is possibly something that could happen. I remember when I was about...
We've all put things in the fridge
when
before,
I was 12, I distinctly remember making a cup of tea and putting it in the cupboard and then taking the pot of tea bags into the front room.
And you weren't menopausal or indeed demented.
I might have been...
when you were 12.
I might have been both. Maybe I've got through it.
There's another confrontation between Ronnie and Mick later after George and Eileen win the darts. There's nothing much particularly goes on
this
there.
darts game.
I didn't mind that. I thought it was like Dorin,
was like
a light-hearted break from the horrors that Debbie's just got awaiting her when she's finally finished telling her all her tales of woe to the doctor. The doc says he's going to send Debbie off for some cognitive tests, and she's like, "Look, just tell me what you think's wrong."
Yeah.
And
just tell me.
Yeah, she definitely to me is the sort of person that needs to know everything.
I wouldn't.
She's not a stick my head in the sand kind of woman.
There's no way I could have the doctor leave me with, "We're just going to see what's wrong with you." But like, give me the list of things that it could be, so I can pick the worst one and think about how awful my life is going to be.
So he says early onset dementia.
Oh, good.
Could well be. Could well be. This is the other point about it, isn't it? A lot of people are saying why they're giving this storyline to Debbie. She's too young. It doesn't really happen.
What did she say? She was 50?
56, maybe, I think. You can say that all you like, but it's similar with Paul, isn't it? He was very young to have MND, and Corrie...
Makes it more exciting.
Corrie will argue back to say, well... people can get it at this age, so we wanted to raise awareness, and then where can you go with that? So I think
it can't just Coronation Street can't
just
be
kind of peeing into the wind if you're going to complain about her age.
A story about only average things happening to average people, because you'd be like, oh no, Debbie's got I don't know, cold butter and she wants toast.
Debbie's saying I can't have dementia. It didn't even run in the family. Yeah. I'm a businesswoman. People rely on me.
Oh,
she's saying the things that would make her sound like she's in denial, but the look on her face is like she believes this. She knows this is happening. She knows this is true. She's welling up. She said everyone needs me. She starts to panic.
It doesn't run in my family, because I think a lot of us go look to our relatives to see what horrible things we could get.
Yeah.
And just to have something come out of the blue, it's like what happened with Paul. Like, just the cruel roulette wheel of life has picked you.
Yeah, it sucks.
Oh, great, isn't it?
Anyway, she kind of pulls herself together by the end of the scene, and she gets a tissue from the doctor, and I like how she got a makeup mirror out and kind of touching herself up just to make herself look a bit more presentable, because Debbie is all about the appearance, and she's a bit of a Bet Lynch lid on a screen type woman, isn't she?
I also liked the wiping tears off of the desk with a snotty tissue. You know, the doctor, as soon as she leaves, is going to get the spray out. But it was that was a really well observed. I don't know whether Ellen Taylor wrote that into the script, or if that was a Sue Devaney kind of thing that she came up with on the day. But it was just such a beautifully kind of human. Yeah, a Debbie thing, like, I'm just gonna wipe this down. It was very, very well
done. Everything about that scene was very well done.
Well, she does a bit where she screams. She literally screams with her hands, like almost touching her face, like the frustration and the fear and the anger and the despair of being told that your life, and this is awful. Same thing with. It's so much like what happened with Paul, because he was saying, I'm going to lose who I am. I'm going to be... Like, Paul was trapped inside his body with his brain working, and she's trapped with her brain not working in her body. It's just horrific.
Well, it was interesting then that later on that episode you get... Was that episode, or was it Friday? I can't remember. Her and Bernie finding each other on the bench in Victoria Gardens, and it looks like possibly Bernie's going to be a bit of a listening ear, maybe, or a sounding board maybe to Debbie, and I'm sure that the comparisons to Paul's condition are going to be drawn there, and I think that Jane Hazelgrove has proven herself to be absolutely magnificent in that story, and I think that she would be just the same here, although it is pretty hard work going from one horrible medical storyline to another, isn't it?
And probably Bernie's probably dealing with the menopause herself. So
she probably is, isn't she? Yeah.
She's probably got bags and bags of.
Do you think that Bernie's going to be the first person that Debbie tells?
No, I think this is a bit of an anomaly. I'll be surprised if... I don't think they've got a lot in common.
But sometimes that's the best, and
I do agree with you.
You can find friends and confidants in the most unexpected places.
It'd be... Who is going to be her confidant?
Do you think she's not going to tell Ronnie for a while?
I don't. I find that a bit tiresome.
Yeah, when Mike found out that he had Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever it was called that he had back then, I think he was at the doctor's with Danny, so there was no hiding it. It seems there's been quite a few diagnoses in Corrie in the last few years where
it's weird, isn't it?
Where the sufferer has decided not to tell everybody straight away. Like Paul didn't for a while, did he? And I think, does Dee Dee the first person that he told?
You don't want it to be real, so you don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And also it's hard a little bit tropey. Because look, she had the news broken to her by this doctor, but you don't really think about it. But when you get told this stuff, if somebody's not with you, you then have to break the news to your family and friends. Yeah, sorry, I'm dying. And that's so hard to say, and it's so hard to talk about.
You've also got nobody to reassure you, because the doctor didn't say you've definitely got it.
No.
And maybe if somebody had been there with her, they could have helped her think, well, maybe maybe it is just the menopause.
Well, what do you say? And anything you do say to her is going to be hollow, because you don't know what you're talking about. And you can say, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's probably not even that. But it is going to be that. And so then what? Where do you go from there?
Yeah. Anyway, Debbie goes back in the taxi with Tim.
Shut up and paint the fence.
Shut up and drive the ruddy car, she says to him, because he's just gassing away. And then you got back at number 13, Abby drowning in work messages on her phone. Kevin says, look, I'll do what I can to help, but she says, no, I'll be fine. She heads out.
Everybody's just being fine, aren't they?
Everyone's fine, apart from Debbie. Kevin bumps into Debbie in the shop later. He says, oh, things are getting pretty hectic back at home. Abby's working hard. It basically was don't tell me let me tell you about my woes before you get a chance to tell me yours. And then Debbie realises maybe now's not the time.
If you've got any bad news for me, but I had to eat the driest pie known to man for my lunch. And I'm dying of cancer.
Top that, Debbie. Yeah. She helps him out by suggesting that she helps him out by suggesting he buy a little prezi for Jack.
Jack shouldn't be rewarded for fighting at school.
No, he shouldn't. He
should be sent to his room.
Yeah, this is when we see the Bernie with Debbie scene. I've kind of talked about what happened there. It's just kind of it sucks for her, and then she goes back home. Does she go home at the end? She goes to the hotel, doesn't she? At the end of it, and this is when she gets called away to there, and she wants to talk to him. Clearly, she's about to Ronnie. Okay. She's clearly about to break this news to him. He's been looking after Layla, because that's the other development that's been going on. That Ed and Ronnie and Debbie have decided to take Layla away from Dee Dee at the moment because she's struggling with her. But anyway, she wants to talk to him, and he says, no, let me talk to you first. Ed's had a breakdown. Can we just look after Layla ourselves?
No.
And she doesn't really seem to have an option here. And then you get the classic, oh, what are you going to say, Debbie? Nothing at all. Oh, classic cliche stuff there.
Can we just take five minutes here to slam deadbeat father Ed Bailey, who's raised 3 children but knows nothing about how to look after babies, has to pawn him off on a childless couple.
Yeah, and what was it? She had a bit of a cough or something.
She had colic.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't deal with this. I'll give it to my childless relatives. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Genuinely, that sucks. He's awful. He's an awful man. He literally, he's like, I learned nothing from the childhood of my children. I let Aggie do all the work.
He was too busy building things.
Where's Aggie again? Oh, she left the family because she's sick of your crap. Interesting about that.
This is a bit of a pass the baby story, isn't it? But yeah.
Well, I'm worried.
Yet another thing that. Are you worried for Layla that Debbie's going to forget her? Or
Debbie hasn't told anybody that she's got this, and I don't know enough about it to know how much danger it would genuinely pose in real life. But this is a soap, so chances are she's going to put her on a railway track or something and just leave her there because she forgot.
I don't think so, because that would require a location.
It's always the worst possible thing that can happen on a soap, isn't it? That happens.
Yeah. I do wonder how quickly things are going to progress for her, because it feels like she's had quite a few incidents in the past week or two. And is this just going to speed up? Does it kind of comes in waves? Because you've had the odd sign since Christmas, haven't you? Wasn't there something about concert tickets or something that she'd forgotten about, and
something like that.
There's been a few little clues. There's been a few little clues that if you knew the storyline was coming, you were thinking, oh God, there we go. That's this is the beginning, isn't it? And they did similar with Mike. They had like Mike calling Penny Alma. a few times at the beginning, long before it progressed.
So, Ronnie's very casual with this whole, let's just look after a newborn baby. Like, okay, we both have jobs though. How are you going to look after this
we both do business.
Small baby? She's fine with it though, so good for her. And Friday's episode
she's got no
was
choice.
very cruel because this was the episode where things happen around Debbie that look like symptoms of dementia, but it gets cleared up and it wasn't actually her fault.
Oh, yeah.
And so she gets this false hope of maybe I'm not losing my mind. Maybe it's just a series of weird coincidences and it makes it look like I've got dementia. And maybe it's just my family being annoying.
Yeah, so she gets the picture sent to her from Abby, doesn't she? The car part or whatever it was.
She's like, what is this? Should I know what this is?
Yeah, that's the thing. She's supposed to be thinking, oh, have I asked her to send me a picture of a car part, but I've forgotten?
This is awful.
And it turns out Abby's supposed to send it to Deborah in her phone, whoever that is. I really like the first shot on Friday's story, which is like Debbie, the camera was the other side of the vase, the glass vase, and it was all kind of wibbly wobbly. Did you see that?
Right.
Don't know whether you're on your phone or whatever at that point, but that was quite nice reflection of her state of mind at the moment. Sorry, iPad. Anyway. Debbie's forgotten her keys.
Kevin's bought Jack some go-karting tickets so they can enjoy together, and they're going to do it on Friday.
Yes. But Kevin decides on Friday that he's pretty sick and he can't actually go.
Well, I don't think he decides that he's sick.
He's having another down day after all his chemo, and
it's so rotten.
It's funny because he's talking about how sick he is, but then for the rest of the episode, all the other characters are determined to feed him.
They're like, shut up. Stop being so boring.
Have some soup from Roy's. Come to the bistro for a delicious meal there. And Kevin's like, no, I feel
sick. I don't want to eat. Yeah. The worst thing is trying to eat when you're sick.
I know. Anyway.
Well, I think the worst thing is getting dementia or having terminal cancer.
Yeah. So... Debbie invites. Yeah, they go to the cafe, and Debbie invites them to the bistro for a double date later on. Abby, Kevin, her, and Ronnie.
And maybe Carl will drop in.
Yeah, and then this is when it comes out that Abby sent the picture to Debbie rather than this Deborah person. So and she's kind of something of nothing.
The look on Debbie's face, it broke my heart because she was like, "Oh, thank goodness for that. There's hope. There's hope for me. I've not got dementia. The doctor's wrong. It's just the menopause."
Yeah, but no. We know the truth, Debbie. This is when Carl comes into it, doesn't he? So Abby's at the Freshco.
Can we call him Slimy Carl the Bastard Man?
No. That's very rude. Very rude. Okay. Abby calls him from the Freshco's car park later.
Who?
Kevin.
Not Slimy Carl the Bastard Man.
No, tells him about the meal, and he's not particularly thrilled by the prospect of going to the bistro with everybody because, as he says, he's feeling a bit poorly at the moment. So then, while Abby's sitting there, she's not even in the car parking spot.
She's just on her phone, parked.
She just decides to stop in the middle of the road in the car park, or whatever the bit that's not the space is called.
Do you know what I'd do?
It's no surprise that somebody goes into the back of her, to be honest.
Do you know what I'd do if I would put some sugar in a petrol tank?
I was just thinking that. If this was
Chesney's not there, he'd let the tyres down on both those cars for holding him up while he's got important quad business to attend to.
So anyway, this guy gets out of the car and immediately they get into some kind of argument about, oh, you ran into me, well, you shouldn't have been parking there, and so on. And then she says, well, look, I've been actually having a bit of a tough time lately, and he's kind of making fun of that. And then she kind of unloads to him exactly why she's been having a rotten few weeks. Her brother's got cancer and her son's been fighting at school, and I've got PTSD actually. And then she storms off. She turns round to walk off. He tries to put a sympathetic hand on her shoulder, and then she turns round and smacks him. So these Websters, eh?
I know, and then she's like, "Oh, you must be joking."
This week.
Like, what do you mean? You punched me. Don't act like me doing anything about you punching me is some kind of unfair retaliation.
Well, she said it was more of a waft, didn't she?
I liked the fact that she thought she was wafting her hand in his face.
It is pronounced waft, isn't it? Have I been pronouncing it wrong all this time?
I think waft is... Maybe there's a northern-southern divide and you as a Midlander...
How do you pronounce this word, listeners? Because I would definitely say waft.
Midlanders have to always call the the toss between the north and the south. So you're in a position here. So you're saying that waft is correct.
What do you say?
Waft.
Waft, yeah, it's not waft.
I like the word
Maybe
waft,
Sally Carmen
though.
had just never seen that word before.
No, I think I've heard people say waft on Coronation Street.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we go then. Things you learn.
So do you think they're going to waft their genitals at each other?
They will be doing that pretty soon, yeah. Because although things start off quite confrontational, it doesn't take very long before they're kind of making jokes with each other, and she's trying to fix his engine. Well, it's not his car, he's borrowed it off a mate. I don't get, because I don't think they've said yet, have they? Is he just popping over from Germany?
What's he doing?
Has he borrowed a car from a mate because he doesn't live here? Why doesn't he have a snifter of a German accent? That really bugs me.
Why would he?
If he's lived his last 40 years in Germany, did he go to an international school? I don't know, but I just...
Do you think there's an international school in Germany where they're like, all right, kids, get your exercise books out.
Lesson 1, Coronation Street.
Right, this is how you say it. Ginnell. Not Sam and alleyway around here.
It's quite possible that his only exposure to English, to that's not on the TV or whatever, is Bill and Elaine. And I know Bill had a bit of an accent, but... Yeah,
How different would this scene have been? Would it have been more creepy if you'd been like,
come back to the pub and yeah, I don't know.
I also found I know that
it's like Bethany, isn't it? When she came back from Milan, it's like
mia.
You moved to Milan when you were what, 5, 6 maybe? You'd have an accent by now, wouldn't you, Bethany love?
This reminds me of the first season of Game of Thrones where Sean Bean's character realises that the Baratheon blood or something, it's like the genes are strong. Those northern folk, they will retain their accents. They're born with them, they're dying with them, they're impervious to outside influences.
I wonder whether...
It's not a roll, it's a balm cake.
I wonder whether they would have considered getting a German actor had anybody applied for it, or would they have cast a net? Because this guy who plays Carl, I think he was in Hollyoaks or something. Was he a hunk in Hollyoaks? But they're kind of skimming around what he's been doing the last 40 years, haven't they?
Yeah, it feels completely like it's like an enclave of English northerners in Germany who refuse to have anything to do with anything German, and he's like, don't care if you've got good sausages and great beer, I'm English and I only want to eat bangers and mash.
It's not even like...
It's like
or maybe the family moved to England when he was young. We had literally had Kevin going to Germany to look after Bill at various points. So he 100% grew up in Germany, this guy. And I think there was reference made to the fact that he could teach Jack some German or something along those lines.
It's really sad. It is really sad that it's kind of like the Benidorm of Spain kind of thing, where is there somewhere in Germany that is just completely English? Like Benidorm in Spain, where it's like you might as well, it's just hot England.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Bill didn't really strike me as the sort of person that would fancy moving to live on the continent somewhere.
Well, yeah, Bill never strikes me as the kind of guy who's like, let's immerse ourselves in German culture.
No. He just wants to go where the houses need a building, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But, yes,
Brick's
that was a
brick, no matter what you call it.
Slightly a stretch of disbelief, but maybe more will be opened up about his backstory, because at the moment, all we know is... Oh, like if you were somebody, and I guess that some of the listeners here and many of the viewers will go, Kevin's got a brother? I didn't know that. What's going on there then? Oh, okay, he's got a brother, fine. But there is much more to the story than that, and I hope that we get to find out a bit about it.
I also found it annoying when he was so astounded, like he's a monkey spoke English, when he realised this woman knew how to fix a car.
Oh, wow.
But then I thought to myself, what would you do, Gemma? You'd be like, pop the hood, let me check. Well, your windscreen wiper fluid's full, so I don't know what's wrong with your car.
Anyway, so she's all right. She's sorting his engine out, and I'm sure he'll be revving it up for her again before too long. I
need some oil on my starter motor, baby. Is that what you do with it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't do that.
Ronnie. Oh, I didn't get what happened here. Ronnie realised that... Did Tim tell Abby that...
I'm confused.
Maybe
I'm
Ronnie's
not sure.
going to propose to her or something? Was that what he was blathering on about when he was taking her in the car the other day?
Ronnie Ronnie rushes the proposal. No matter what the reason is, he rushes the proposal.
Yeah, goes down on one knee and
in front of Debbie,
yes.
just in case anyone was confused.
Oh, that was sad because she goes down on the
yeah,
and she's like saying, I can't marry you.
I hated this.
Would you like to see them getting married before she gets too bad?
Yes, I think they will though. It was just
Debbie
one of these...
Bailey. Debbie Webster's got a better ring to
her
it.
Name. I think he should be Ronnie Webster.
Yeah. Build up the clan.
So progressive. I just
make the leap, Ronnie. The Baileys are a sinking ship.
Oh my
God. Webster's have got strong
growing.
blood. They've been going.
Exactly.
Webster's have been on that street for 40 years.
They've got such strong genes. They're impervious to German invasion. So anyway, I didn't like this because obviously, if she just told him what was up, he'd love her anyway. But he's rejected, and now she's dicing. She's kind of risking his love here because he's wondering what's the deal.
Yeah, she can't. Yeah, I guess that she's just saying to herself,
you can't.
There's a lot going on here.
No,
I need a bit of sure.
I think she's saying like I can't in all good conscience allow you to burden yourself with me knowing that there's a possibility I might need a lot of care and
God, this really is the MND storyline 2.0, isn't it? Because they held the whole wedding chapter to Paul's story.
Yeah.
It's going to be... Is Debbie going to die on the anniversary of their wedding as well?
On my birthday?
Just to mirror it.
Yeah, why not? They should get married the 2nd of October. It's Gandhi's birthday. It's when Paul died. It's when Paul got married. It's an excellent time of the year. It's beautiful leaves, the golden and red in the trees.
I'd really like to see Debbie in a wedding dress.
I know it's really traditional, and I know lots of people don't care about marriages, but I just love weddings.
I think if you're going to watch a soap, you just got to kind of buy into the fact that you're not going to have many couples together that won't get married because it makes a good shoot for a TV mag.
If you're a soap watcher, you have to get into weddings and also pregnancies being a 50-50 state of affairs and people shagging each other left, right and centre.
Yeah.
That's just what you have to deal with. And everyone's going to die of some horrible disease.
It feels like it's kind of... It writes itself that she's going to have a tragic wedding and then forget about it, doesn't it?
Oh my God.
And he's going to have to show her pictures from their wedding day, and she's like, I don't know who you are.
Shut up.
Anyway, so she's given him she's rejected him, but he didn't understand.
Well, she says, I don't want to get married, not now.
Yeah.
And he's just so defeated, and she goes, look, I'll explain, but not at the moment. And he can only imagine that the explanation will be, I found someone else, or I don't like you, or I don't want my future to be with you. But that's not at all what she means.
He hadn't had any inkling beforehand. No. There's no reason for him to think that she's gone off of him.
No. I mean, look at his arms.
Exactly. Back at the car park, this is when Carl starts to get a little bit too flirty with Abby. He's saying, oh, you're so funny, you're gorgeous. Your husband doesn't have to know. How about you and me find a nice hotel somewhere? It strokes her face, and she's like, no, obviously. But when she goes back to the car later, you can see her smiling to herself. I hate this idea.
What?
The affair.
The idea of what? Oh, yeah.
Carl and Abby having an affair, because... just her reaction there makes it look like this is so inevitable.
I just find it vomitous that if somebody was like that and I was like, look, I'm married, and they kept going on at me, I wouldn't find it charming and like, oh, he's so persistent. I'd be like, this guy's rapey. What a scumbag.
Do you think that Abby is the sort of person to have an affair?
If she's married to Kevin
She
I don't even know why she's married to him to start with, honestly.
She does inflict catastrophes on herself quite a lot, doesn't she? She's very self-destructive, and this is a very, very self-destructive move. Because for the first time in her life, she's got some security with Kevin, even if it's not the most thrilling of relationships, probably.
Everybody on Coronation Street is one argument with their partner and one flirty person away from a full-blown affair. And that's how it always starts. There's always some kind of disagreement with the person they're with, and then the other person's like, hello, and that's it.
I just think it's a bit of a shame that they've had this character of Carl in the wings for 40 years now, and they're just bringing him in to have an affair. We've talked about him before on the podcast and think, I wonder what he's like, wonder whether Carl will ever come into it. And it seemed like a whole range of possibilities for what this guy could be like. And it's just, he's a Lothario.
They all are.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but it might be that it doesn't happen, or it happens once and then they keep it to themselves, and then he turns out to be a fully fledged character.
I don't know.
I really don't know, but yeah, not great first impressions, I have to say.
I know we always critique it, but can you imagine if Coronation Street introduced a new character and their spiel was like, yes, he's asexual and boring and he doesn't like anybody. He keeps
doesn't
himself
like
to
drama.
Himself. He doesn't leave his house. He just stays at home and watches television.
Well, what are the chances? Because when the Websters are all meeting together at the bistro later for this meal that Kevin's been forced to attend, the man comes in. Yes, it's Carl.
Oh no, before then, Abby tells everybody about this annoying arsehole that she met in the car park.
Oh yeah, she does, doesn't she? Totally unmemorable, she says.
Well, because Debbie's like, was he fit? And she's like, no.
Yeah. But anyway, Abby has some very awkward moments with Carl in the bistro there. He's even like stroking her hand when he shakes it. It's absolutely grim.
He's horrible.
It's slimy.
His brother's maybe dying,
yeah.
And he's like, well, the sexy merry widow. Maybe he's like, I can't wait to get my hands on that Webster Mechanics Auto Garage money.
I've just got a horrible feeling that we're supposed to find him charming and hunky.
I mean, is he? I guess people think he's good looking. I realised when I was watching this that I have no way to know if someone's supposed to be good looking or not, because I found him repulsive because of how he was acting. But is he handsome? I think
he's supposed to be. I think he's handsome. I think he was a Hollyoaks hunk and now he's a Corrie hunk. Yeah.
I'm just not good at judging whether guys are
anyway.
good looking or not. I think it's obvious when a lady is good looking.
I think it's supposed to be obvious for both, really.
I'm sorry, but there are some famous men who are supposedly hunky men who are like, are you sure?
Well, luckily for me, your ideas of what makes a hunky man don't align with the vast population of women in the world.
I'm not trying to diss this guy. I'm saying it's something with me. I'm not saying this guy's not good looking. I'm just saying I don't like. I'm not even gonna. There are so many famous men, and I really am itching to say their names, but I'm not going to because I think it's a bit mean. Who I'm like, are we? We're not seeing the same things, are we? Here, what has happened?
It's just the confidence that comes along with being a celeb, maybe, that people find attractive.
I think famous nerds who are men get away with so much. They just do. There are some very unhandsome famous nerds who everyone thinks are sex gods, and it's not you I'm talking about.
Oh, we've been waylaid, Gemma. It's basically just an awkward conversation at the bistro, basically. We also see
everyone
Debbie.
Loves Carl apart from Abby.
Yes, even Jack comes along and is pleased to see his uncle who's never met before or something. Debbie's having a memory service department invite to the hospital over to one side. So that's tomorrow, so we've got that to look forward to on Monday. I assume Monday is going to be the day when it gets confirmed. I don't know how quick the tests are.
Well, is it like,
I don't even know what they do.
Do you remember when Shona had her test when she was
she had to identify a rhinoceros.
Is this a lion? What time does this say? And I'm pretty sure that these were the ones they gave Donald Trump, and he said he aced them. But the thing is that they're supposed to tell if you're literally demented.
Yeah.
So you should be able to pass that test with flying colours.
There's a great scene.
It's not an IQ test.
There was a great scene in the midst of the Hillman story where Audrey was being made to think that she was losing her marbles because Richard was gaslighting her, and Archie gives her some tests, and she passes them clearly because there's nothing wrong with her. That was a really, really well done scene, and like the joy on Audrey's face at the end of it when she realises, I'm fine, and Richard is trying to get at me, and Archie believes her for the first time as well. We're not going to get any of that here, are we? We're just going to be told, yep, sorry, you have got it, Debbie. Can
you imagine if I
can do
if they did a test like that on me and they were like, what's this character's name? I'd be like,
what's the actor called who plays this person, Gemma?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Back at number 13 at the end of the episode, Carl's left alone with Abby for a bit, still flirting outrageously.
He's gross.
I know. Well, she's telling him, she says, I'm counting down the hours until you're gone. And he's like, start the clock then.
See, this is why
she's saying these things.
Don't fall for it. This is gross. This is so many mixed messages, because I'm pretty sure they're going to have an affair. But what kind of message is this sending to everybody watching? Like, just be aggressive. flirty with somebody and you wear them down eventually. This is how we ended up with such a toxic culture, because of all those 90s sitcom films, which are basically a man stalking a woman until she gave in at the end of the film and kissed him.
I just find it difficult to believe that Abby...
Is that dumb?
Yeah, that's dumb.
Sorry.
Sometimes when characters have affairs, you can kind of understand from the circumstances and the situations, like, oh, they're having a really rough time.
Or I'm not excusing real spark here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's so sad that they didn't meet each other first, because they're perfect for each other.
Yeah, but it just feels like with this one, you've had a couple of scenes of Kevin getting mad, and that's enough to make Abby say, "Oh, I don't know whether I can stick with him anymore."
I also think it's super
feels a bit forced,
aggressive and predatory to continue to flirt with somebody who's told you that they're not interested.
Yeah, and I hope that he... yes, it's a waste of a character, but I hope that they do go down there, he's a nasty piece of work line.
Who would ever do this to their brother who's got cancer?
I mean, we said that they don't have a very close relationship.
I mean,
clearly.
Maybe they don't have morals in Germany.
Maybe not. But yeah, not a great start for Carl. But now we've finally got all three of these new men in the show who were touted with in their hunky photo shoots a month ago. Yeah, James has apparently disappeared already.
How's Danny? I'm worried.
But then you had Theo as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
And Carl was the third one. Theo this week was hilarious when he was in that scene with Todd in the pub, and he realised clearly that he'd put a t-shirt on with sleeves, but he couldn't show his arms off, so he rolled them all right up, because you got to have your arms on display at all times if you're
welcome
Theo.
To the gun show.
Yeah, basically.
Now I will just say one thing about it, in that I have said I hate Theo.
Carl.
I hate Theo as well. I hate Carl. He's gross. He's slimy. He's a predator. Blah blah blah. Doesn't mean I don't want him to be in the show. It doesn't mean I'm not gonna find him interesting to watch. And I do think these kind of characters are important. And it is actually really nice to have had Corrie go, look at these three characters, and not have them all just be, oh, he's a great man, he's a man's man, he's a ladies' man, he's a blah blah boring, just nice guy. He's gonna be a dull character, like a villain. Great.
Yeah. I've appreciated, even though it feels like a bit OTT with all the drama that's going on, having the Websters at the centre of things.
Yeah.
Because they've not had a whole lot to do in recent years. I wonder if Sally's going to get drawn into this at all. And you know, there's no way Rosie and Sophie are coming back, but if there was ever a time for them to come back, now would be it.
So Carl's the youngest of these children, because he's from a different mother.
Well, yeah, he's younger than Debbie and Kevin. Yeah, and quite a bit younger.
Yeah, he's like our
15
age.
years. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's born a few years after us.
I'm just making conversation, really.
Well, I think we need to move on. And talk about the Theo story, because there was another massive revelation there on Monday that's turned him into a bit of a slime ball as well.
Theo, goodness me.
He's got another bit on the side.
And it's his wife.
What's his wife? Who could have seen that coming?
Now, is there an irony with this? Has this been, like, in the cards all along? Was this on the origin story of Todd, when he was created as a character, that he would literally be on his Todd for most of the time? I'm not sure, but I think it's quite ironic that he's finally found himself a guy, but he turns out to be...
Yeah.
So far in the closet, he's practically in Narnia, is a description that gets given to somebody else.
That was great.
Is that... No, that's
what Todd says to...
about Theo.
To Eileen and Julie.
Because Eileen and Julie noticed on Monday that he's a grumpy boo, and he's fed up with blokes messing him around, and they hear about this bloke who is, just being a bit of a liar. And then Theo bumps into Todd in the street, and he's like, I need to talk to you. And Todd's like, no, leave me alone. And Theo's like, I really like you. And Todd says, oh yeah, I've been through it all before. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, at this stage, Theo's just being strangely non-committal to Todd.
Yeah, Theo's like, I need more time. Can we have a coffee or something? And Todd's like, come back to number 11. So they go back and shag. And after they've done that...
Yeah, Todd's resistance didn't last too long, did it?
Not really.
Yeah, just thinking of those arms.
Theo's like, oh, let's spend the day together. But Todd's got to go to work, because the dead people keep dying. The rate they're giving out storylines to people, they're dying left, right and centre. So he arrives at the Undertaker, followed by a grieving woman who wants to organise her mother's funeral. So they're talking and discussing this, and then she's like, oh, my husband's here. And it turns out it's Theo, the dog. And so Todd's like awkwardly hanging around as the lady's talking about her dead mum, and Theo's like, oh dear, this I didn't foresee this. And Theo and Todd have a little conversation at the side, and Todd is very angry at him.
Yes, as he should be. Do you think
what
a
disgusting animal?
I don't know whether we're supposed to be
His wife's mum
sympathising
has
with
died.
Theo at the moment.
What are we going to find out about this poor woman and her mum that's going to make us sympathise with him lying to his grieving wife?
I think for some people, we don't need any more than, yeah, he is quite hot though, isn't he?
He's really hunky. And also...
And for Todd and Theo, and he can just forget the fact that he's married.
His mother-in-law had fake grass in her garden.
And
so it's good that she's died.
I really like the idea of those two together, but now the idea that he's cheating on his wife just really gives me the ick about it. Yeah. And I get that some people might be trapped in relationships, but if he's realised, I don't know, is he bisexual maybe? I don't know. Did he get forced into marrying this woman? Because she does talk about her family going to church, doesn't she, at some point during this conversation at the Undertaker's? And we were kind of wondering whether her family might have more Granny Spellman-esque views, shall we say, towards gay people. But also maybe, if she's religious herself, did that mean that she rushed into marriage with Theo when he wasn't ready? Has he known all along, or did he realise after he was married to her? I don't really care. He should end things with her before he starts hanky-pankying with Todd, quite frankly. No excuse, Theo. End one relationship before your next one.
It's not just him having a relationship with Todd. It's him going on a dating website to pick up men.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get into this because I think there are so many homophobic conversations that could be generated by this idea of a man who is married to a woman who is also having affairs with men. I think it's a bit of a baity kind of... It's like a lighthouse for all the bigots to attract themselves to. All the horrible things that people say about gay people, it's like a beacon calling them to come and criticise people for being gay. And I don't want that to turn into this at all, because it is absolutely your sexuality, I don't feel, is under your control in any way. But I do think your behaviour is controllable, and I don't think that cheating is a great way to express your sexuality.
I wonder whether he's also having something like Carla, like maybe he was 100% straight up until recently, and now we're supposed to believe, but now he starts fancying.
But Carla is kind of like Marcus, where she's like, I've fallen for the person and not the genitals. Whereas Theo's like, hey, he's on a website for comparing genitals.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just really concerned that this is going to bring out some real unsavoury commentary from certain people. It does feel like a bit of a magnet for that. I don't want to.
I'm worried for his wife, and because there are definitely some people who are going to be saying, "Oh, forget about her." Clearly, him and Todd are destined to be together because they like the idea of these two being together, even though the wife hasn't done anything wrong. Supposedly.
Well, it's a bit like Sedan, where he got caught in the crossfire between Kate and Rana, and we got so much stick for pointing out that he was being cheated on by people who were just blinded by the fact that they wanted these two women to be together.
Exactly.
And we were like, it's totally fine for them. Like, of course, it's totally fine. I don't even understand how you could listen to us for any length of time and consider that we're don't want to see lesbian or gay couples on the show, because that's completely nothing I even think about. But the cheating is what I found difficult, and having Zidane being treated like a bad guy because he was opposed to his wife sleeping with anyone, that's not great.
No.
But the fact that this woman is clearly a side character, and Todd is the main character, and Theo is his kind of, his beau.
We're clearly supposed to be gunning.
We're not going to be rooting for her.
No.
And I think that's really sad, and I don't know where they're going to go with this, because obviously this is not an unfamiliar story of a closeted person of any gender being in a relationship and having a beard or whatever you want to call it for convenience, or to I mean, it's much more prevalent in the past because it was very difficult to come out.
Well, Todd's own story
circumstances
was similar to this, wasn't it? Like when Todd, he was going out with Sarah Louise, raising Bethany together.
Yeah.
And she was pregnant with their baby who didn't survive, and then his head was turned by Carl at work. So I guess that Todd can understand what's going on here, but
the thing about having like being your sexuality being fluid is really tough on Coronation Street or soaps in general, because I think that on the whole it's not done in a sensitive exploration of what does it mean, you know, about you and how can you explore this and what is it, like let's talk about this very sensitive topic. It just turns into an explosive, like, oh, he's kissing him, but he was with her, and it just feels like really exploitative, and it's such a delicate and sensitive topic, and I do think it is a taboo subject that we haven't quite, as a society, really gotten to. I think we're okay. I think on the whole, everyone's like, yep, gay, yep, straight, okay, but this kind of being sexually, you know, your sexuality being fluid is very confusing, but the way it's handled on soaps is that it's just an excuse for a character to go out with somebody unexpected, or do some kind of have a big sexy stunt or a big picture that you can have kissing that everyone will be scandalised by. And I don't think you can pretend that you're being sensitive about it and also get away with making it exploitative and a bit
getting thwarted. I suppose it was a bit different for Todd when he was younger, because he was still young and trying to understand things, and I think it could be argued that he went out with Sarah because that seemed to be the done thing, and his brother was there saying, oh, you haven't got a girlfriend yet, and then when he was into the relationship, that's when he realised. But I don't know, I don't think that Theo's got legs to stand on here. He is 100% in the wrong.
But okay, so showing our age a little bit here, we're very, very much accustomed to that idea of when we were young in our formative years. This was when stories like this were on television, and we were being educated in a certain way about, you know, people exploring their sexuality and finding out, actually being straight is not me. So watching Todd realise he was gay, I think, formed a lot of the opinions of the people of our age of like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And I think that the new challenge is this kind of sexuality being a bit more fluid, which is challenging to me, because when I was younger, you were either straight or you were gay. And it was like the acceptance of being gay. That was the challenge of the people that were adults when we were kids. Yeah, absolutely. And so every generation we have a new understanding or opinion, or our understanding of something shifts slightly, and we're asked to challenge ourselves with something that's outside of our experience. And some people find it very difficult, and I hope that's not me, and I'm trying to expand my horizons, but I don't want to ever like judge somebody, but I don't think your sexuality can be, I like cheating on my wife.
Yeah, there's no real excuse for that,
I can't get into that, but I am interested in why Theo has got to the age that he has, which is our age, and not had this infusion of being, it's okay if you're not straight. And I know that there are definitely people that have had that, and I know that there are closeted people that are our age and find it very difficult, and they deny it. It's really sad that exists, and I feel sympathy for them, but I don't feel sympathy for Theo at all, because he's got a family.
I don't feel sympathy for him, but I will say that I'm more interested in seeing what goes on here than I am with that Abby and Carl storyline, which is a big for me. I do not want to see her going off with Carl, which is clearly on the cards, but I almost forgive I'll forgive Theo's character a little bit more, because I don't really care for his wife. I just don't like the idea of anyone cheating particularly, but I will be more willing to forgive him if things turn out all right with him and Todd, because I just want Todd to I want him to be able to settle down with somebody, because we've known him for 25 years now, and he just needs a boyfriend. He's a good black man, really. I know he's done a few naughty things in the past.
This is what I mean. I'm waiting for Corrie to give me a reason. I want them to give me a reason to find Theo's situation sympathetic.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'm kind of mad.
It's difficult to.
I hope that all makes sense. And I, like, as always, I'm sorry if I've offended anybody, but I think I'm realistic about my opinions about things, and I'm open to be challenged about them, but I'm also realistic, and I explain where I'm coming from. So Billy and Todd have this conversation later about what's happened, and Billy's like, just drop this guy, he's a liar. But Paul would probably say, just go with it. And Billy's like, I feel really bad, like he's this age and he's living a lie. There's a knock at the door, and Theo comes in.
At the back door, of course. And
he's surprised to see that Billy's there. And I really found...
I think it's just the fact that there is a vicar on the sofa, because he doesn't know who Billy is. It's like, oh my God. It's weird though,
because in my head, I've made up... My mind is that Theo was raised in a religious household, married his wife young, denied that he is gay, thinks that he can live his life being a straight man, is not getting the sort of fulfillment from the relationship that he would do if he was with a man, but now he feels like he owes his family his life, and he can't betray them, and he also can't turn his back on his religion. So the fact that Billy was there and Theo didn't say a peep is interesting to me, because what religion then is it? I assume it was a sort of Christianity. But maybe that's not his story. Maybe I'm just making up excuses. Maybe he's just a dog. So anyway, Billy goes. Theo tells Todd about how this app that he's found him on is like a portal to another life, and he was never able to open up with someone like this before. And Todd says his secret is safe with him. So do you believe him? Because I kind of don't really. That Todd is his first.
He seemed quite kind of confident. Not that we saw what went on in the bedroom, but there was no kind of form of, oh, this is really it. Is this what I really want? This is what I've been fantasizing about all this time, or I think I have. No, he was just like up for it, wasn't he? He was well up for it. Okay, so I just watched, rewatching The Last of Us, because the new series is out soon, and I loved the first series, so I started watching it again. And the third episode is incredibly famous, notorious, because the majority of it is the story of a romance between two male characters who find each other at the end of the world. Okay, it's a really beautiful love story, but at the very beginning of it, the guy there's a guy who's like a rugged survivalist, and then he's discovered by this kind of like wanderer comes across his house, and he lets him in and feeds him and stuff. Yeah. And this guy, the survivalist, is obviously never been with a man in his life. Right. And they kiss, they have a kiss, and he's very hesitant, and he's a bit scared and intimidated, but he knows this is what he's been missing in his life. He wanted this, and he didn't even realise it. And then you see him blossom under, this beautiful relationship. Over the course of an hour. Well, yeah, and 10 years also in the show, whatever it is. I was going to say, I watched the first episode of Last It's a really great episode, but there was nothing like that about Theo. Theo wasn't like, ooh, a man, must I, should I? Yeah, not sure. He was like, yeah. And also the picture of him on Gay Babe, what a confident photo that was. Is this the photo a guy would take you as... Truly never been with it. I don't know. It depends on how much you want to go to bed with someone, I guess. Yeah. So how many times has this poor woman been cheated on? But do we believe him? Is this true? I guess we'll find out. I am fascinated by Theo. I don't know how much to believe him. So I think that George talks later about a scaffolder's wife, and Eileen picks up on this and starts to wonder what is going on. So Friday, Sean finds out about the fact that Todd's got a fellow, and he's like really excited and wants to know more. But Todd steers the conversation away, talks about Julie's bucket list, and she's like, I love this too. Oh, this is good, the Northern Lights comment. This is like what we're like in England. We take anything good and we just turn it. Like, she's like, Northern Lights, well, I saw those over Tesco the other week, or whatever it was. It was great, because we did have them here. That was nice, and kind of tying into real life events. Not fast. Last year was all about seeing the Northern Lights in this country for the first time. And did you see it, or did you not? Yeah. And we did, didn't we? So she doesn't fancy a cruise down the fjords, does she? Her bucket list is incredibly humble, isn't it? She wants to go stargazing somewhere. She just wants to do nice, gentle, really unexciting, unexpensive things. Marvel at the glory of the universe. What a wonderful, lovely girl. I mean,
If only the Inexplicable was still publishing, she would probably enjoy reading that. So anyway, Eileen tells Todd to set up a crowdfunder so that she can look at the sky.
Yeah.
Okay. Theo and Todd have a drink in the pub, and Theo's like, "Can you please not make a scene at my mother-in-law's funeral?" And Todd's like, "No, I'm not going to."
Yeah, so it's Monday, isn't it? I hope it's going to be quite a good episode on Monday, because with Debbie's memory clinic appointment, then you got the funeral.
A lot of drama here.
Do you think anything's going to happen at the funeral?
Well,
is the wife going to pick up on something? Maybe. Are they going to be
lingering glances over the coffin?
The thing is, I'm not quite sure that I believe we're going to see the funeral, because Corrie may have sets for quite a few things, but they don't really have anywhere for a funeral to take place, do they?
Come to our house.
Apart from the church. And quite often these days, if characters have a funeral, like Mason, for example, you'll see people lining up at the for the hearse, and then they just come back later. But yeah, this funeral would be a perfect scene.
So this woman has she said she's got a religious family.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Which would make me think that they should be going to St Mary's for this, maybe. Yeah.
And obviously the unspoken thing is that their religious beliefs cause them to be homophobic, which I would normally say feels a bit judgmental of religious people, but we do have the balance of a big gay vicar.
Well, maybe it'll be the big gay vicar that's doing the funeral, and he'll be kind of conflicted with the knowledge that the grieving son-in-law is banging the undertaker.
Can you imagine doing the eulogy and like?
Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me today?
Yes. Janice, she was notoriously hated Danny LaRue. Really did not like watching Changing Ends. She thought that was terrible because the kid was gay in it.
Changing Ends, that was brilliant.
But Janice didn't think so, and she was glad when Paul O'Grady died, and she calls Ellen degenerate.
National
and
treasure,
that is why Theo's not safe.
O'Grady.
Not safe in this family.
Right, more to come on that next week. So let's rattle through these remaining storylines, shall we? Dorin's back on Wednesday. Hooray!
Oh.
Isn't this wonderful? Because Alina's flat's flooded, and Viz doesn't particularly look too
Apparently
thrilled about
the whole of Romania.
Yeah, they're going through a rough patch at the moment, aren't they?
He just turns up. I kind of liked it because he just turned up. Yeah. Nobody dropped him off. He just walked.
He was just there. Nice surprise, very nice surprise. But Friday's when it kicks off, really, and well, it's more about Cassie and Steve, isn't it? Because there's balloon fights with Hope and Ruby and Dorin in the beginning of the morning while Tyrone's drowning in work. But yeah, the story kind of picks up when Cassie is supposed to be taking the girls to the cinema later, but they're not really into the idea of a 12A rated horror film, and she'd rather have a bunk up with Steve, so she lets them go off to their own devices, and she goes round.
They go.
No, she goes and sees Steve, while the girls meanwhile go into the back of number 4 and checking water balloons at Sally and Tim.
See, this is interesting because this storyline about Hope doing her pranks has been running for a while now, and I'm really wondering where it's going.
Yeah,
is it going anywhere?
I don't know whether it needs to go anywhere. It's a thing that she does. She's clearly not learned a lesson from delaying the ambulance from reaching Mason in time, has it? That wasn't enough to shut down her YouTube channel wherever she's uploading.
I mean, the thing is, Michael, it was hilarious.
It was, so hilarious. Anyway, the girls go back to number 9 later, and who do they find in there but Steve in his boxer shorts, having had a good old seeing to from Cassie.
How disgusting.
Yeah, they're talking about butties, aren't they? Which is also a bit rude to talk about after what they've been getting up to. And anyway, Sally comes knocking on the door, and the girls are hiding while Sally marches in telling Cassie about this balloon barrage. And I did enjoy seeing Hope struggling to contain her glee, just giggles and guffaws as Cassie's telling Sally, bugger off, it's nothing to do with you.
Cassie thinks it's brilliant.
Kathy thinks it's hilarious, and
it's not.
It's not, and it's not the right kind of, not the right sort of attitude that you should have when your granddaughters have been up to mischief. But it certainly fit with Cassie's personality that she'd be sending Sally away feeling like she's not really got the message across.
I did really like it though, because Cassie thought it was hilarious, but then she did tell them off.
She did. I mean, I suppose with if she and Steve have been caught by the girls, she does need to keep them on her side as well, doesn't she?
Mutually assured
To
destruction.
be fair, yeah. So anyway, the girls go off again later, but then Steve and Cassie, of course, again, because Fizz, Tyrone and Dorin come back. This is another one of Dorin's little outbursts, isn't he? Because he says, Steve! Anyway, Fizz and Tyrone later have been told about this water balloon incident, and so Fizz is giving them a bit of a telling off. But Ruby and Hope are just still just living off the fact that Steve and Cassie were caught out together twice today. Tyrone has a bit of a go at Cassie at the end of the episode, and she's like, yeah, so what if I like Steve? Tyrone says, look, he's Ken's son-in-law. She doesn't care. Stop being so mardy. And that was basically what happened there.
I did like the bit where she walks out the room and Tyrone's like saying, I'm trying my best. And Cassie says, yeah, imagine if it was never good enough. And I thought that was a really interesting comment from Cassie, because she obviously feels that is her lot in life. Like, nothing she does is ever good enough. She's always getting stick for everything. And I kind of like that comment, because I think it made Tyrone think a bit more about how he treats his mum.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't see how you could be much different about it, because she is a bit of a liberty.
My ears pricked up a bit at the comment where Steve points out to Cassie that he is married, actually. And you got the comparison between this story and then also what's going on with Abby and the Theo story, both of which
they're all cheating, aren't
cheaters. But Steve has got a bit more leeway, hasn't he? Because it's been
he's married to Tracy.
A year since he and Tracy have been.
Tracy's
apart.
gone off with another man already.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that relationship's over.
Yeah, and that is, I suppose, possibly proof that affairs can sometimes have a positive impact, because I was all for Steve and Tracy together, but to be honest, I've really not minded. I've not been willing them that much to get back together. Have you?
I'm not going to be. I feel like I don't begrudge somebody. I don't really think of it as cheating if you're married to somebody. If that relationship is completely over, I don't know why you wouldn't just end it and have a divorce officially. But if somebody's got to the stage where they've moved to another country to live with somebody, even though they've now broken up, I still think that, Steve is effectively single.
Yeah, he is. Fine, I suppose. I guess. Tracy's just been having her head turned by Rob Donovan the other week anyway, hasn't she? So she can't complain.
I know that I am notoriously judgmental. But the thing about Coronation Street is that it does invite you to judge people. Is that bad or good? I don't know. Because I like, in real life, I don't concern myself with what other people get up to, really. I think whatever, like...
I don't know what they... Yeah.
None of my business. I don't even know what half the people get up to. And so, but when I'm involved in it, I'm like, right, well, here's what I think.
All right, you get the fostering storyline. Do you want to have a... I mean, the story basically is Tim wants to foster and Sally's not so fussed.
Tim feels like he hasn't got a purpose, and he really did not help raise Faye at all. So he doesn't know how difficult it is. And also, to be fair, in his relationship with Sally, I don't feel like he'd be doing any of the heavy lifting of looking after emotionally or physically a child that they foster.
I don't know. I think
the idea that he wants to foster a child is like me saying, I want a puppy. I've never had to look after a dog by myself and be solely responsible for it. That's why I don't have one.
I think that Tim would, because I think that they've been inspired by Mason.
They will get
and
one.
They would prefer.
They will have a foster child.
Would prefer a child a bit like Mason, a kind of a wayward teen lad. I'm sure they'll probably get, and I think that Tim wouldn't mind the idea of kicking a ball about with him,
he thinks it will be like
giving
Mason,
his manly influence,
where he in a very short amount of time, he managed to make what he felt was a difference in a young person's life. Yeah,
they're hoping it's somebody who's going to be able to go from a zombie knife carrying thug to a
bully.
To changing from that into a spaghetti carbonara cooking dreamboat within the course of a month.
The reality is a lot more complicated, and I'm interested to see. I think Coronation Street's always been a really strong advocate for fostering.
Yes, well, even back from, back in the 80s when Rita and Len got into it, there's been a fostering element on and off in Coronation Street fairly frequently.
I don't feel like they get enough credit for it, because I think it is really challenging, and I do think that they've quite often not shied away from showing some of the challenges that fostering does
Well, Sally
without demonising it or scaring people away from it.
Yeah, Sally made a point saying, well, it'd be lovely to get somebody... Did she say it's lovely if we got somebody like Mason, but what if we got somebody like Hope? What was that? They made a line about, wouldn't it be good if we got somebody like Fizz? Because they talk about Roy and Hayley in their fostering.
Yeah.
And that was quite funny because when, one of the first things that Fizz did when Roy and Hayley fostered her was accuse Roy of sexual harassment and nearly got him arrested, or did get him arrested. I can't remember. Fizz was certainly not, a fully polished final product to begin with.
The challenges involved in fostering are, like, the child could be very troubled, but also the family could cause you severe headaches, and that's what happened with Wayne.
Of course.
Made Roy and Hayley's lives a
bit of a
nightmare.
Wayne's stepdad that was horrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, because obviously whatever situation... I mean, there are loads of different reasons why you might end up in foster care, but some of them are going to be that the parents are finding it incredibly difficult to raise a child, but they don't necessarily think, oh, great, yes, please foster my child.
I don't think that Corrie has really ever had characters get a foster child that they've really, really struggled with because they are so badly damaged and antisocial. Everyone's kind of had a heart of gold underneath that, or they've just been nice straight away. So we had Wayne, who was obviously lovely, Fizz, who took a while to get there, but she's a good egg. Then you had Faye was fostered, wasn't she, by Anna? Lovely Eliza, no, not Eliza. Elsie, that Toya and Imran had for a little bit.
They also had a baby.
Yeah,
for a very brief amount of time. Maybe this is what Sally and Tim should do, because some children need very short-term fostering if their parent who doesn't have any support needs to go to the hospital for some reason.
Yeah, they're kind of saying that they want to have troubled teenagers, but I don't know whether there's a box you can tick on the form to specify that, or whether you just get whatever's coming to you.
It's really interesting and very worthy to want to foster, considering the many things that could happen in a soap.
It starts to feel a little bit like, another fostering storyline.
I don't think so.
But I think considering it's Sally and Tim, considering that they have been a bit off the boil for the last couple of years, and it's one of my favourite things about Coronation Street is the family scenes with Sally and Tim, just when they're eating their dinner together or what have you. I think that it could actually have some real potential.
There could be some really fun, like, what would a kid think of Sally?
Yes.
Like being a snob and being like, oh, welcome, you're probably not used to garden with fake grass, but it's better than real grass. We have a hot tub, but you're not allowed to go in it.
I told you that I used to be the mayor of Weatherfield.
Yes. Look at our summer house we have. Yeah, I do like the idea of, like, how would Sally impress a teenager?
I think that she would find it very difficult. I think what I'm imagining is going to happen is she'll be taught round to the idea and think, I've got this, but actually she's going to find it more difficult than Tim. I think that Tim will just kind of roll with it and know that
I don't think
it's
Tim's
not.
Gonna
You're
do
not necessarily.
Any of the work.
I think that.
Can't even paint a fence.
No, I think that Tim is going to be the one that, if it is a difficult teenager, that takes up the burden of it, because Sally will be.
You're talking about the emotional burden. I'm talking about the pant washing and the cooking and the making sure appointments are kept and going to school and have you done your homework and have you sharpened your pencil and have you got to take a costume in.
Do you think that I don't know what's kind of the age range of foster parents is, but are they kind of pushing the upper limit of foster ages? I don't know, because they're in their early 50s now. And actually,
it might be fine. I think they probably want older parents that are experienced.
A bit more experienced. But becoming a parent again at that age, when Kevin's had to raise Jack when he was not as old, clearly,
he's
10
got
years
Alfie.
younger. But, oh yeah, of course, Alfie, of course. So that'd be interesting to see if
he's got like 3 generations of children.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He basically does.
Yeah, everyone says that Steve McDonald's the one with the fertile.
Well, he's just
swimmers.
collecting them. Like...
But yeah, it's Kevin. Anyway, that's what we haven't said what's in the story, but it's basically Tim suggesting the idea, Sally not being sure about it, and then getting some ideas from people.
Well, hang on, no, because she's like, okay, I'm open to it, and then they get their balloons thrown at them by the children, and she's like, look, actually, this isn't for me. There's so many things in my life that I could do now. I don't have kids to worry about. Like, what? Look at Gail. She's gone to France. She's living an amazing life. Imagine if I could go and potter around in my French garden and have a baguette and go and cycle to the boulangerie or whatever. That couldn't happen if we foster a child. So no, I'm not doing it. But Tim's like, well, when was the last time I listened to you?
This story is so clearly leading towards them going down that route, isn't it?
They're obviously going to get to foster.
Yeah. Tim gets his own way yet again.
Oh.
At least they have got people who they could call upon for advice all around the street because, you got Rita, you got Toya, you got Roy.
I'm almost certain that no matter what happens, this is going to be, at the end of it, a beneficial and rewarding experience, because I don't think Coronation Street is going to do a story where they foster like the spawn of Satan.
No, I think they foster a child and actually they're dying of cancer. Sorry, Tim and Sally, you did say you'd have anybody.
Yeah, here you go.
You said you'd have a troubled teen, and
this
one's troubled by
an orphan child who's
stage
dying
4
of
cancer. No, hopefully this could be a heartwarming story.
Well, it'll be a lovely. There'll be challenges and they will fight, struggle, but I think
the Wayne is my favourite fostering story. The Wayne
Bruce
story
Wayne
was my favourite one because he was lovely and his horrible stepdad was mean to him and the whole kidnapping bit of it. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I don't mind seeing a million. I'd rather see a million foster stories, even though we've had them before on Coronation Street through the generations. I'd rather watch that than another person get told a horrible thing that's 100%. That's happening to them.
Unfortunately, a foster story on its own doesn't grab the headlines, does it?
No. But it is a socially responsible thing to have in a show.
We should raise awareness of fostering because
I
there are
didn't know
lots
you
of
could just take someone else's
children.
child and look after them, and you get paid for it. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know. Dee Dee, what's been going on with her? She's just telling the nurse that comes around to visit her that she wasn't really looked after very well at the hospital, to be honest.
This was the nurse who was the original nurse, who is also a person of colour, who had originally looked after her when she went into hospital before.
Yeah.
Then she had a lot of white nurses who were very dismissive of her and very busy. And now she's got this nurse again who is clearly, she feels a lot more comfortable with her. And she's openly saying to her, look.
Yeah. And the nurse had the decency to look ashamed. Whether she's going to go back and warn her colleagues. Hard
because she didn't do anything wrong. She's the only one who didn't do anything wrong.
But anyway, that story gets put on ice, really, apart from the whole ends up with a baby.
Also, what happened to Ronnie when he said he had the toilet troubles for a day and he couldn't do this? And I thought that we were going to find something out. When Debbie was going through her catalogue of incidents, I thought something was going to be to do with Ronnie. Because I think Ronnie has got away with pretending to be sick for a whole day to get out of looking after this kid that he's now sound with. Because a lot of people were also suggesting to me on our Facebook group, or somebody suggested that maybe Ronnie doesn't like kids and that's why he said he was sick on that day. I don't think he was sick. There's no evidence at all that he was ill for a day. But now it can't be that because he was willingly saying, "Oh yeah, we'll look after Layla."
Yeah.
So what was he doing for that day? I think Coronation Street. A lot of people want them to do spin-offs. We're always saying, "Oh, do a spin-off." I want to watch Ronnie's Lost Day. I want it to be like 20.
There's a flashback to come.
Like 24 with him. 24 episodes every hour of the day. What was he doing? Boop, boop, boop.
I don't think I could cope with that spin-off.
But Ronnie definitely looks like the sort of guy who could be in an action film.
Yeah. We don't actually ever see him at work, do we? Isn't he an undercover agent?
I think he's fighting terrorists. I think he's wading in canals, pulling bodies out. I think he's going to clubs and finding drug kingpins. I think he's flirting with the ladies of the night to get some information.
They put a twist in to say this is actually what he's been doing. It wouldn't be the most far-fetched thing that Corrie's ever sprung on us, has it?
Why not?
Chesney and Gemma are trying to avoid the McCarleys on Monday, and Chesney is, and Gemma says, "Well, I can't. I'm meeting Lou for lunch actually," and but then Chesney says, "No, I'm not having you meeting her. They're a bad lot," so she has to cancel it. But of course, Lou sees her in the cafe, and Gemma's like, "Oh, caught me out there." Anyway, it was all very awkward, and she's going to go out for a drink with Lou at the end of the episode anyway. So they do. That was a bit of filler, wasn't it?
I don't really understand what's going on with the McCarlis and their evil genius plan of befriending people they hate for
dragging it
reasons.
on for so long, aren't they? Then you got Dylan, who's still having a difficult time at prison, but not letting anybody know. Is it? Yeah, Betsy's on the phone too on Monday and saying, "I'm fine, really."
Isn't that interesting?
What?
I didn't know you could phone people in prison.
Yes, you can.
That's weird because you'd think that the Platts would always be chatting to Max.
Well, we haven't seen much of the Platts, to be honest, have we? Recently?
Where did he go? Where did Max go?
Max done. No.
D.
Derby.
Derby? No, he didn't go to Derby. He went to.
I don't know.
A place that's called County Durham.
Durham, that's it.
He went to County Durham, and sadly, the only telephone line between Manchester and County Durham, is currently been severed. So they can't phone him. They have to fix it.
Sean goes to see Dylan on Monday after being told by Betsy that he was acting a bit weird, and Dylan says, "Everything's okay. Me and Brodie are mates now. Stop stressing." And that's kind of the end of that.
Betsy's miserable.
It was a total time filler.
Her arm is still bad.
Betsy's arm's still bad. Jenny's still being distracted by her dating app because Christina's still catfishing her.
Greg.
Yeah, no. Dom. Dom is the name. Greg is the ex, isn't he? But nothing really happened there, but it's always a pleasure to see Christina. And Carla has told Jenny at the end of the episode that she's fed up with waiting after a good year of it. So I'm putting the pub on the market.
Yes, this was a big development. She's like, you owe me money, I'm not getting it, so I don't care if you buy it, but it's going up for sale.
Yeah, so this is, I'm somewhat concerned that Jenny might not be the landlady for much longer. How are you feeling there at the moment?
We riot.
She has had a good run. She's been the landlady
she
for.
Hasn't.
I know that COVID kind of put a dampener on it a little bit.
In time, she has. In episode counts, yes, but in actually being the landlady and having landlady
leaving a legacy,
things,
feels like not enough.
She's been cheated.
Yeah.
Genuinely, and I think that she is such a great character to be the landlady that. If they got rid of her now, I think that they would be making a big mistake.
I just can't think of anybody who could replace her in a more satisfying way.
It's the year of Corrie mistakes.
Yeah, I'd be absolutely... And I said to Kate Brooks when we met her last year, I said, don't you kick Jenny out of the Rovers.
Well,
little did I know that she was thinking, maybe I will.
Well, I'm going to do the opposite.
I just think that I don't know what on earth Jenny would do if she wasn't.
No, there's nobody that can replace her, and there's nothing that she could
do a better job than her.
So I'm just wondering. And Kit and Sarah are flirting.
Oh yes, they were a little bit. Well, they've been kind of in each other's radar for a very long time now.
See, I know that Corrie
got commented on at least this week.
At the moment, it's getting all the sexy men in and getting sexy time.
I'm still waiting for the call, Corrie.
Yeah, I think I've deleted a few messages that you might have sexy time. I'm just wondering whether Jenny is messaging Dom or a Dom, because there's a big difference, and one of them's a lot sexier than the other one.
Yeah, or maybe it's a Dom and it's Theo.
Oh God,
who knows? Right, that was this week's Corrie. Very Debbie-centric, well, Debbie and Webby-centric.
Debbie's the character of the week.
I think we might be able to agree that Debbie's the character of the week this week, and I feel that she's going to get quite a few more characters of the week over the next year plus.
Let's just make her a crown.
This story is running. I think we basically should. I haven't really thought about what I'm going to score it. I thought Wednesdays was clearly the strongest episode,
and I really appreciated them doing something different with that, taking risks. I think that
there weren't particularly any
paid off.
Yeah, and there weren't particularly any stories that I was that down on. I know I hate the fact that this Debbie story exists, but I was still completely captivated.
This is what annoys me. This is what annoys me about it. It's like I don't want it. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But there weren't any stories that I was particularly bored by, apart from the Chemma and Chesney thing, which didn't really take up too much time at all.
I'm intrigued by Theo. The fostering is going to open up something for the Metcast, which I think is sorely needed. Who can't have more Dorin in their lives?
Exactly. I'm going to give this week's Coronation Street 4 t-shirts with printed across the front on them out of 5. What about you? What are you scoring it?
I'm going to give this 4.
Oh, you're going for 4 as well?
Nasty, selfish, self-pitying little prats.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was going to give it to, what did I call him? Slimy, what's his name?
Theo?
No,
Carl.
Slimy Carl, the sexual predator from Germany's. But he said I'm not allowed to call him names.
Okay, well, yeah, pretty good week, despite the subject matter making it difficult to really buy into. But
it'd be so easy to like just say to Corrie, don't do this, don't do that, because it's bad when you do it. But they do such a great job of like being little asshole, emotionally manipulative storyline, make you cry. Look at Paul, isn't it sad? You didn't even care about him last year, now he's dead. How do you feel about it? You're sad, aren't you? They're just so good at it. They're just evil.
I know. Anyway, that was it for this week's Street Talk.